It is Sunday and we are live. Jason Stewart, good afternoon. Happy Mother's Day to you guys out there. Of course, Mother's Day does not mean we're going to take a break from discussing pretty pressing topics. And obviously today we're going to continue discussing where America's headed with the Supreme Court. So welcome to all you guys. Ryan Vasquez, welcome back. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. John, yeah, see that. No majority of women are pro-choice. Dolly, and that's what we want. That's what I wanted to bring. As you see, the topic of this video is, I heard it being suggested that majority of women are pro-life. Happy Mother's Day to all those mothers. Jason Stewart, yes, definitely. I lost my mother earlier this year, few months ago, so kind of a somber day. It wasn't really close to my mom, but yeah, losing your mom in that first Mother's Day without her is kind of what I'm experiencing now. So there are stats that say women are pro-choice. And Dolly, if you would, state where you're getting those stats from. Now, I'm not disputing what you're saying. I just heard this, and I heard it on a liberal program, and I'm like, what the hell? But I heard a well-known liberal. I'll just go ahead and throw his name out there, Bill Maher. Bill Maher, the HBO show he has there, and he stated that the majority of women are pro-life. So, I don't know. I was kind of shocked to hear that too. Jason Stewart, you said still remember all those good times. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm almost 50 years old, and yeah, I can obviously think of decades of times with my mom. So that first year, which this one is for me, the first year without your mom is, yeah, it's gonna be something that's gonna be reflective. So, yeah, it is what it is. The man is wrong. It's on Gallup and a lot of polling. Dolly Lillian, and that's what I thought. But I heard him say it, and knowing that he is 100% liberal, I mean, Bill Maher is by no means a right-winger. I'm like, I didn't get a chance to go and check out the stats. I had a few other things, but I'm thinking like, really? Handsome, I tagged you in a Kentucky Derby video. That's awesome. Check dude out. Mickelson 3-2, I will certainly look for that. Do you prefer wooden or flesh tunnels? Timothy Smith, I don't even know what those are. So I can't tell you that. Stats prove them wrong. Well, Dolly, if the stats show that more women are pro-choice than pro-life, which in my opinion, why would you be in favor more? Why would there be more people in favor of being pro-life? It didn't make sense to me. I understand the Christian tenet behind it. I understand protecting the sanctity of life. But when it came to women, and when you see what a lot of the governments have in store for women exercising abortion, up to and including charging them with murder, like why would women be in favor of that? Jim Hard, I can't pronounce that. Hardgroder, appreciate the follow. Bro, I don't understand why you talk about left or right when neither actually matter. We have owners. Tim Mateo 12-6, I don't know what it means to have an owner. At least not in 2022. I don't know what that means, but you feel free to elaborate on it. Folks, let me make something clear to you. I say this on every broadcast. As you see the sign behind me, this is a no snowflake zone. You can throw whatever the hell you want to throw out here. We do not run from comments. We do not censor comments. So when he says that we have owners, as ludicrous as that may sound to your humble correspondent here, I'll let him get it across. He has the right to state his opinion. Miss Lizzie and User Bell, appreciate you guys are following. Hey, King, Miss Lizzie, I like it. Happy Mother's Day to all of you ladies out there. It was a beautiful thing, especially from a sky view. I'll have to see it. I'll have to see the video. We have been owned since 1861. Tim Mateo, 1276. What happened in 1861? What happened in 1861 that made that year different from 1860? Since you're suggesting as of 1861 we have been owned, what was taking place in 1860 the year before? It's all about increasing the population of the white race since they are about to become the minor. Don. In my opinion, my humble opinion, you guys can tell me where I'm wrong. I always invite those to criticize and offer critique to your host. Tell me where you think I'm wrong. I strongly believe that the vast majority of mothers to be seeking to have an abortion are on the lower end of the socioeconomical scale. And I strongly believe that if abortion is completely banned, it would make the majority race, which is Caucasians, lose numbers because most of the children in this country are had by minorities. I mean, it's just more common to see minority families with a lot more kids than Caucasian families. You can call it irresponsible. You can call it whatever wording you want to call it, but minorities have more children than the majority. And by banning abortion, you could tweak the numbers of who is the majority. Trump 2024 says, GCM, I get it on every post. Let's see what happens. I'll tell you this in regards to what chances Trump have in 2024. This hurts it. This hurts it. There's no doubt, because I said on every broadcast that there is not a lot to focus on when it comes to President Biden. His economic numbers, although some are starting to improve, and he still has 2 years left, what he's done so far is nothing to brag about. And there's nothing to galvanize the liberal party around. This issue right now coming out of the Supreme Court is an issue for liberals to galvanize themselves on. You talk about single issue voters, people who look at the economy or look at what they're paying at the pump, and that's enough to vote against Biden. What they're doing with Roe versus Wade alone is enough to vote against the Republicans for a lot of women. So this issue does not help the midterms for the Republicans or Trump 2024 folks. Trump for the people, says Bandman 592. Well, this one, we don't know, because Trump, even though we do believe, most of us believe that Trump is pro-life at this point, he hasn't came out and really said a lot. He hasn't really congratulated the Supreme Court for their actions, or hell, for all we know, he still may be pissed off at the Supreme Court for what happened in the election, for them not really taking his claim seriously. So he has not congratulated the Kavanaughs and all of those who actually have really given him the strongest piece of his legacy that he probably ever will receive. I mean, at the end of the day, he is responsible for what's happening right now. If he had not appointed those 3 Supreme Court justices, this would not be happening. Hello, Red 042186. Good morning or good afternoon to you, depending on where you're at. Thanks, Miss Lizzie. Good morning. God bless. Okay. Why do you believe others can't discuss ideas you don't agree with? Because they're not good in politics. Gus Goo. They're not good. A lot of folks do not tolerate hearing things a different way. And I'm going to ask you guys, tap the screen, get my likes up, get me more folks in here. The preferred audience in this room is typically MAGA. But I don't mind liberals coming in here. We get to stir it up, get to chop it up, have a real good time. But the preferred audience here is MAGA, so I don't run from those folks. So if you are on the right and you think you have commentary, you want to drop in the comments, but you see the name, the handsome liberal, don't run from this room. We entertain your say-so here. You get to speak your words here. No matter how bad, how much you disagree, how insulting they may be, as long as they're aimed at me, you'll get your point across. I don't want you launching personal attacks against other guests, but you can say what the hell you want about your humble correspondent here, and we will address it. As far as why do others, some folks just do not tolerate hearing adverse opinions or adverse thought processes. And that's why I would encourage all of you out there, no matter what side of the aisle you lean on, to occasionally listen to other media outlets or other social media pages or anything of that nature that is on the opposite side of the aisle that you are on. Not saying it is meant to change your hearts and minds at all. That's not the goal. Just simply listening to the other side might actually change some of the stereotypes, because a lot of stereotypes develop simply because you don't have any contact with the other race or with the other gender or with the other sexually orientated person. I mean, when you start entertaining at least the words that's coming out of that person's mouth or their thought process, you may start realize, well, maybe what I've heard in this area isn't quite the same. Or let me be real, as a liberal, if I only listen to liberal networks, all MAGA is racist. All MAGA is racist. And I talk to MAGA every day, all day, and I know that's not true. But that's only simply because I have reached out and spoke to you guys. Okay, people need to be responsible for their choices and unprotected actions. That is true, Joe Richmond. Self-responsibility is important. But should it result in a murder charge otherwise? I mean, keep in mind, there's some strong language being thrown out there. This is not going to stop at simply reversing Roe versus Wade. There are already folks entertaining banning certain abortion, not abortion, but um, entertaining banning birth control pills and things like that, the IUD. Because if you strongly believe life begins at conception, then anything that can take that life after conception is against your wishes, and that would include the IUD as a birth control method, certain birth control pills, and a host of other things. So we'll see how this goes, but it's going to go well beyond just simply reversing Roe versus Wade. Southern Baptist anti-abortion campaign was started to increase the white population. Well, Will Rasmussen, we know the Southern Baptists in their history, but that's just one group, though. That's just one group. I mean, there's a lot more going on than just Southern Baptists. Tell the woman in your life happy birthday, happy Mother's Day for me. Michelson32, appreciate that. I already have and will do again. Women don't like being told what to do, especially younger women. We are pro-choice. And that makes sense to me, Dolly Lillian. I can't imagine a large group of young, fertile women being in favor of going to jail for murder if they seek an abortion. I just cannot understand the notion but that is what I heard, which is why I wanted to bring it to this audience. Do you believe the majority of women are pro-choice or pro-life? Oh, better yet, I would ask you this: the women in your life, maybe it's your aunt, your niece, your cousins, your wife, are most of the women in your life pro-choice or pro-life? And that would apply to my Republican friends, my MAGA folks. Are most of the women in your life down with this? I want to ask, and they may be. I'm not coming on here to say that I know that they don't know. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. We have been owned since 1861 at the time of our first bankruptcy. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what you're talking about. You going to tell me that Elon Musk, somebody owns him? Oprah Winfrey is being owned? Okay, if that's how you see it. Inflation, crime, immigration, mismanagement of contraception, tie tubes if you get abortion. There's a whole lot to unwrap there, Koi Fish. Inflation, crime, immigration. Okay, I get the first part of what you're talking about. Now in one sentence, you went from crime to abortion. I don't know where to break that up, and we can tackle it in pieces. There's too much there. We have been the minor for years, says Juice 1955. I don't believe that. I don't believe. When are you suggesting that the Caucasians in America have been the minority for a number of years? I don't believe that. There's simply too many places in this country you can go where there essentially are no minorities, or the numbers are so minute that you may have the numbers being affected on the national scale, but yeah, there's just simply too many places you can go where there's just no minorities. Velisi Pond says correct. Okay. Brian Weiss says yep. Let's see. Need to stop looking at skin color and look at heart. And that only happens when we mingle amongst each other, so that some of those stereotypes can go. Appreciate those who are following. We have the same owners. You really riding this owner thing, Tim Mateo. We have the same owners as all but 3 countries in the world. Let me ask you this, Tim Mateo. Who owns us? You keep throwing around the word that we all have owners, according to you, since 1861. Give me some names. Give me a specific person that owns you. You believe you are being owned. Give me the name of the person that owns you specifically. All right, the rich will always have the ability to get an abortion. This affects marginalized communities. 100%. That is what I refer to as a home run. Vic Lil Pond. That is absolutely 100% correct. The wealthy will always, just like when it comes to dodging a draft. If you want to pretend like you have bone spurs or something of that nature, there will always be a way to dodge what affects the regular folks. And in regards to abortion, yeah, they can always go to a different country. They can easily travel to states where it's still legal for now. I mean, yeah, if anything, they can also hire a doctor. Keep in mind, folks, let me make this clear. The vast majority of abortions do not involve sucking them out. Now, it's taking a pill. How easy is it to smuggle pills? You realize how many pills will be on the black market? And when this happens, I mean, it's taking a pill. Let's see here. What is your view on Kevin Samuels? Let me say that this dude's a shifter. Look in his eyes. Okay, somebody threw me off on that one. I don't get that. Should I keep posting crazy shark feeding videos when I do my dives? I ain't got nothing to do with that. How does it feel to be a liberal? Who said that? Oh my God. Now, I always point out creativity when it comes to creating names. I get a lot of crazy names in here. Modern colonizer. I had a guy, white, privileged whitey. I love it. I talk to these guys without a problem. This guy's name is Hyman Buster. Hyman Buster. How does it feel to be a liberal? Well, I bust a few hymens as a liberal. It feels good to be a liberal. I don't have an issue with claiming what side of the aisle I lean on, because there are a lot of liberal policies. I'm a big fan of universal health care, for instance. That's obviously a liberal tenet. No problem with that at all. I lean left. I'm pro-choice. I make no qualms about that. I'm for criminal justice reform. So I don't have any problem with it. None at all. There is more important things to worry about over abortion. That came from Biden pooped in his pants. Not if you're some young guy or gal that has found yourself in the family way and it's going to make a major detriment on your life. No, it's not more important. I mean, just think about yourself. When you first found out, if you are a parent, how you felt when you first found out that you were about to become a parent, whether you were happy or scared. That was the biggest thing going on in your life at that point. There was nothing more important than that. I mean, that's plain and simple. You're going to tell me that an LGBT member playing for the wrong sports team is bigger than this, or even what you're paying at the pump. When you find out you are about to become a parent, that will become the biggest thing that's going on in your life at that point. Let's see here. And that says King Crusher says true. Call yourself a Mr. D Virginity. Something like that. Back when that was happening, I'm too old for all that now, though. Abortions are health care. User 4012. It could be viewed that way. It certainly could be. And Hagenbach, I'm talking about right now in life. Okay, well, that's for you. Hang on a second, Brian.
Yep.
Biden pooped his pants. I'm talking right now in life. This abortion stuff isn't changing now or for sure. But right now, there are people who just found out they're about to be a parent. So it's still important to know. Brian, you're on the program. What's up?
I just wanted to hop on and wish all you beautiful moms out there a happy Mother's Day and God bless.
Sounds like a good wish. Sounds like a good one. What do you think about what we're talking about? Do you have any opinions on that, or you want to leave it at the Happy Mother's Day?
Can you what were you talking about again?
We're talking about Roe versus Wade being rolled back. This is obviously a tough topic, particularly on Mother's Day, but we are talking about the possibility of them rolling back Roe versus Wade.
I think the ruling was one of the most weakest cases that went before the Supreme Court. And I think it's everybody's losing their minds because it's going back to the states, but it's ultimately it's Congress's job to make it federal law, and they need to get off their keisters and make it federal law. However, they're not going to make it federal law because they can't use it as a crutch to get people out to the polls. That's my opinion.
Well, okay, fair enough. I will say this: regardless of what side of the aisle you're on in the abortion debate, I'll disagree with you on this. You said it's not. They want to use it as a crutch, and it's not enough to get people out to the polls. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on the abortion debate, it is always going to be enough to get people to the polls. Even if the liberals, which I don't expect them to do by any means anytime soon, even if the liberals could get a 60-seat majority in the Senate and get the votes, it would make it a galvanizing issue for Republicans. There are people in this country that are always going to want this legal. There's people in this country that are always going to want this illegal. This will always get people out to the polls. But go ahead.
But no, and I like I said, I'm in the middle when it comes to pro-choice, pro-life. I respect anyone's opinion. I lean more towards the life aspect because I'm a father of 4. But to each their own. And the way I look at it is the law when it was first passed. I don't think it was a good enough argument But I think like I said, I think Congress needs to get off their butt, write federal legislation, and then if they do, then these states can't overturn what the federal law is. So that's my opinion. They need to make some
Okay.
sort of law
Well, Ruth,
in Congress.
what you're suggesting in regards to it was not implemented from a strong enough manner. That's also what Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
Mhm.
said as well. So she said exactly the same thing. We need to strengthen this, and that is the way you suggested: make it an
Mhm.
actual law that's protected by the Constitution. This,
Absolutely.
the outcome of what's going on now, will galvanize the Liberal Party in many elections to come to try to do that. Just like
Yep.
on the right, there has been a push to reverse Roe versus Wade since it
Mhm.
became the issue in '73. From this
Mhm.
point on, making abortion rights an actual constitutionally protected law will be on liberal ballots until it happens. It'll always
Right.
come up. But go ahead.
No, and I think they would have had a strong. They used the 14th Amendment, and like I said, I think that was weak. I think they would have had a stronger stance on it if they used the Fourth and the Sixth Amendment, because the Fourth Amendment is unreasonable search and seizure, and the Sixth Amendment's due process. So I think
Let
if
me
they
ask
use
you this.
those,
Okay, let me ask you this. If you do not want to be vaccinated, for instance, are you constitutionally protected against them being able to inject that in your body?
no, because they use what the Emergencies Act to make you get it, because it's
Okay,
a
now the reason I asked you that, I wanted to see also how the audience respond, and their answers are just as unclear as what you're saying. Well, I kind of this. I mean, that's what the problem is when you let the Supreme Court act on stuff.
right.
Folks can always misinterpret it and go the other way with it.
Mhm. And that's the thing. The Congress needs to stop using the Supreme Court to pass laws, because that's not what the Supreme Court is used for. If you read Article 3, they're supposed to take matters up of laws that Congress already passed and litigate on that specific law or that specific case. They're not there to make law, and I think that's what happened with Roe v. Wade. Is seven? I think 7 out of the 9 justices ruled in favor of it, but they made their own law. Congress didn't make that law.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Listen, I want to move it on. I got Nikki Nash out there. I want to go ahead and move the program. I got somebody else wanting to get in,
Well,
but
like I said, happy Mother's Day to all you beautiful moms out there, and I hope you all have a great day.
absolutely. Thanks, man. Appreciate you coming on through. Hey, folks, feel free to. We let you get your point across. Whether I agree with it or not is not the issue. I want to still hear it because sometimes I actually learn something from you folks. But bring your point. Come on in here and talk to your boy, Nikki
Hey,
Nesha.
hey. So just like Brian, I want to say, yes, I do. Okay, so I just want to say happy Mother's Day to everybody, just like Brian. As a mom, right? Someone who obviously has had 3 children. I'm also a liberal as well, and I am pro-life personally, pro-choice socially, meaning that me myself, I would never have an abortion. However, what another woman chooses to do with her body, I don't feel like we should be able to legislate. I think that's a personal health issue, and that other people should not be able to legislate what a woman chooses to do with her body. That's just my personal opinion on it. It's a very, I guess,
So you're pro life personally, but pro choice society wise.
right, right.
Okay.
I couldn't do it. However, what another woman would or would not do, I don't feel like it's my business. And while I may have personal feelings about going through that whole process, that's what that woman has to deal with, and she has to live with the consequences and all of the things that come with that. And that's her. And if that is, for people that are religious, if that is what ends up, um, if they end up going to meet their maker and they're punished for that, again, that's on them. I don't feel like we should make laws that are going to stop somebody from being able to do what they choose to do with their own body.
Okay, let me ask you this. This is a question in the comments from Brian M. Stokes. He says, but it's not her body. It's the baby's life that matters. How do you feel about a comment like that?
Well, the problem with that is that it, regardless of what they say, it is her body because the baby cannot exist without the woman, right? And so until science can do something where the baby can exist on its own and it's a free agent, it is her body, therefore it's her choice because her body is going to go through that. I've had 3 children, so I know all of the changes that happen with pregnancy. And as far as the man having a choice and things like that, again, he doesn't have to go through that, the woman does. And that should be something that a man and woman make together. I know when I had when I found out I was pregnant with my third son, both me and my husband were like, "Oh, I don't know if we can do this because, I was on birth control. It was messing with my milk supply and I'm getting off of it. And, we're married. So we did what we did. And then, we found out we were pregnant. And I had a young baby and a 5-year-old. So I wasn't paying attention. And next thing I know, I was like 4 months pregnant. And I was like, oh my God. So, but at that point, of course, because I live in Texas, it was too late. But we actually considered, can we do this? But then we end up saying, no, we know we can't because we eventually realized that to us, that's not the right choice. But again, if another woman and man, the husband, that family decides that that's what they want to do, then they should be able to do it. And unfortunately, the baby doesn't have rights. I mean, someone read, and I can't think of what it was, but someone read, I don't know if it's like the definition of life or perhaps a constitutional amendment, right? And it said living people and the rights that they have, And so I was like, okay, well, that's true, but is the baby technically considered a living person until it gets
Let
out of
me
the body?
respond. I get the point where the child at some point is not viable outside the mother's womb. So based on what you're saying, because there is a law in just about every state that if a woman is pregnant and she is assaulted, the assailant can be charged with injuring 2 people. Like say, for instance, you killed the mother. You can get
Right.
2 murder charges for that. Do you support that law?
I guess so. Yeah.
Then you're treating it as if it's a life. And the reason
Right.
I'm asking,
You're
the reason
right.
I'm
You're
asking this
right.
question,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah. So it's obviously hypocritical. Even as a
Right.
liberal that's pro-choice myself, somebody brought this point to me on one of my earlier broadcasts during the week, and I had to concede that it is very hypocritical that you want the assailant to be charged with 2 lives, but if the mom wants to abort the kid, suddenly the life disappears, and that does not make any sense. And I told that was a right-leaning person. I told them, even though I'm on the other side of the aisle, I really want to disagree with you, but the way you presented that, there's no denying that is very hypocritical. Let me ask you this also. Considering it, okay, you said yourself personally, you're pro-life, but you're pro-choice society-wise. What about the stages? Like, do you have a certain point within a pregnancy where you're like, okay, at this point, I'm now pro-life, and I would not allow abortions, like second trimester,
Yeah.
third? Do you have a certain
Yeah,
point?
I am. Yeah, I am. Yeah, like third trimester, partial birth abortions. I don't
Okay.
support that. I don't.
So
Yeah.
pretty, but
Yeah.
but you're saying third trimester and partial birth, so you're talking pretty far along, though.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, again, I'm personally pro-life, so I understand, that a woman may not want to have, a baby, but I think at some point, if you didn't want that baby, then you should have been making the moves to, do what you have to do. If you've allowed your pregnancy to get so far along to where it's at a certain point, well, then at that point, just have the baby. And if you don't want it, there's adoption or other options. So, like I said, it's something that's very confusing because, of course, I love children, so it can be difficult. I don't know. It's a very contentious point. That's why we all have these very strong feelings about it. So I'm not,
Well,
like I said, I'm
because
not all one side or all the other
it's
myself.
speaking of being all it's speaking of that point, all one side or the other. Later, Vader said, if we can all agree that a baby is a human, the discussion becomes much more civil. No, it becomes one-sided. Once
Right.
we all agree that the baby is a human, then there is no pro-choice at all. That becomes an issue where it's instantly at conception. So no, it doesn't become civil. It goes the way you want it to go. I
Right.
noticed everyone on this Mother's Day live a okay. This is a common someone in the comments the real something. I noticed everyone on Mother's Day live is alive to even give an opinion. No one got rid of you. So they're basically saying the fact that you're alive and you didn't get aborted, you should be thankful for. I don't know if that necessarily has anything to do with the current debate on reversing Roe versus Wade, but yeah, they're basically saying you should be thankful you didn't get aborted. It is what it is.
Right. I guess you could agree with that, but at the same time, okay, what does that have to do with anything?
Let me ask you this, because this is another one in regards to one of the comments. Red 042. People keep bringing up the Bible. Religion has nothing to do with anything. Do you believe any of this is biblically based?
No, I'm actually an
Really?
atheist, so yeah, no, I don't.
Wow.
I don't at all. So
Well,
no.
but keep in mind you're an atheist, but you also made it clear you're pro-choice society wise.
Right.
So I'm on the other side of you on this. I strongly believe it is religious based.
Okay.
Because the biggest proponents of abortion are evangelical. So I strongly believe it's religious based. So we're on
Um,
different sides on that.
Well, I mean, what I mean is, as far as abortion, yes, it can be religious based, but again, like I'm an atheist, so like I value life, right? But I don't value life because of a God. I value life because I value life, and I also value people's choices. One of the issues that I have with conservatives is that they talk about big government, they talk about getting the government out of people's lives when it comes to certain issues, but then when it comes to other issues, suddenly they want big government, they want people to be able to tell
Yeah.
other people what to do. And that's my issue. I mean, choose a side, right? I mean, but don't be a hypocrite. Don't say that you're not big government, but then you want the federal government or the states to pass sweeping legislation that prohibits people from being able to make the choices that they want to make with their own lives.
I agree with that
Depending on
100%.
what the issue is.
I
Yeah.
believe that but it's not just Republicans, in my opinion. I believe on both sides of the aisle, they both promote having big government in your life when it's something they favor. Stop and frisk is a perfect example of that. I mean, you don't want big government, but you're okay with the Patriot Act, which is a horrible piece of legislation, which came from George W. Bush. If you don't
Yeah.
want government, you don't want government. You don't pick and choose when you think government is appropriate. And I agree with that 100%. But look, I got some other folks wanting to get in here.
Okay. Thank
Appreciate you
you.
coming through.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes,
come on
sir.
through anytime. Absolutely. I always was coming in here every now and then, and I don't have any problem with that. Let's see what's going on. I see you, Tim Hotel, with this somebody before you. Big government who don't want big. Wait a minute. This is from HI Society. Who don't want free big when they? I don't. Your wording is off.
What's up,
Welcome to the
buddy?
program, Walter Ruffer. Welcome back.
Hey, first of all, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Sounds good to me.
So on this abortion thing, the other day you said that I can't remember your comment was, but you said it sounded like I was against it. I I'm against it. Like, so saying if my wife got pregnant, that wouldn't even be a thought in my mind. But my
What? Wait,
thought
wait,
is,
wait, wait, wait.
you know,
Hang on, hold on. What if your wife got pregnant, but it was a thought in her mind? What would you do?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I
Go.
can't even picture that. I
Okay.
can't even picture
Continue.
that. But here's my thing. We live in America,
Okay.
which is supposed to be a free country, and if if a lady gets pregnant and she feels like she can't take care of that baby, and that's an option, she ought to be able to do that. To me, that's between her and what I believe in God, so that's between her and God. That's just
Okay.
that's just my point.
So you're pro-choice. There's no doubt. That's pro-choice.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
you know, would I do it? No. Now, if one of my daughters got raped and got pregnant, I would probably be for it because one,
Well,
I
let
don't.
me.
I,
Okay. Let me give it to you. Okay, obviously, when it comes to rape and incest, the number of people that are pro-choice goes way up. But let me talk. Let's say your daughter actually consensually had sex with someone, got pregnant, and found out this dude she didn't know, but he got 4 other girlfriends and 2 other babies on the way. And she was like, I don't want to bring a baby into the world under these circumstances. What would you support her decision to be pro-choice then?
I would ask her, could me and my wife raise it before we went that route?
Okay. All right. But if she absolutely said, I don't want to carry this baby to term, you would support her too as well.
Yes.
Okay. So you're certainly pro-choice then. All right, fair enough. You've definitely cleared up any issues I had with which way I thought you were leaning. That's as clear as it gets.
I'm just that person. Here's my thing. If you want to be gay, go be gay. That's your right. This is America. And I feel like a gay couple should have the same benefits as me and my wife do.
Okay. So
that's just how I am.
So you clearly lean left. On these issues at least. Let me say this. This is in response to a question in the audience. Fast Pass 123 said, "Can we agree everyone wants less abortions, not more?" But yeah, we can agree with that. And maybe if we weren't so damn stingy on the entitlements and helping women with children, you would also have less women making these decisions because finances happens to be one of the biggest reasons women decide I don't want to have this kid right now. If they knew they weren't going to be struggling so fucking bad, if they knew they weren't going to lose their job because maybe we give them a little bit more time off doing preg, there's a whole lot of things you could do to get your wish of having less abortions. So I just want to say that, but go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I don't want, I'm just one of them people, you do what you want to do, as long as it ain't hurting somebody or killing somebody.
Well,
Go do
you're
what you
killing
want
the
to do.
kid.
This is a free country.
Wait a minute. You said as long as what you're doing is not hurting somebody or killing somebody. Well, the child is
Well,
what you're. That's
well,
what they're talking about.
I know, but and I understand that too. But like I told, I got a 16-year-old daughter that thinks she's grown and she's always hollered, "My right, my right." Well, you ain't got no rights as long as you live in my house. I pay your bills.
I feel you on that. Okay, well,
You know,
listen. Whatever opinions I had on which side of the aisle you stood on this, I think you have made that abundantly clear. But go ahead. I give you the last word. Go ahead.
you know, and another thing, if the government could carry on conversations like you do on here with people that disagree with you or agree with you, I think we'd be in a better place too. They can't get nothing done because they argue with each other all the time like a bunch of 2-year-olds.
Fair enough. Real quick, Fast Pass 123. He responded to my previous statement and said, money isn't a valid reason for abortion." I don't understand why you would have that mindset because the first argument you guys make when folks come for entitlements is that if you can't afford children, don't have them. So you're essentially saying, okay, well, money isn't a reason for an abortion, but it's a reason for contraceptive. It's a reason for everything else, right up to an extent. Yeah, it is the reason. It is a reason because that's the main reason you don't want to approve entitlements. If you can't afford kids, don't have. I've seen people with bumper stickers that have said that if you can't afford kids, don't breed and all of that. Well, then if a mom actually finds herself pregnant and says, well, I don't want to have children because this guy told me if you can't afford kids, don't breed, then she's kind of responding to what you just said. Go ahead, Robert. You can go ahead and roll us out of here.
Well, I'm fixing to go enjoy my time with my mama. I just want everybody to have a good Mother's Day and thank you and keep doing what you're doing, buddy.
Hey, anytime, man. Come on back through anytime. You're definitely a friend of the program, man. You have a good one.
You too, buddy. Thank you.
Was Roger. Roger calls in. Always a good time talking to Roger. Now, this is one where I'm gonna let this man on. Almost scared what's going to come out of his mouth. Tim Mateo claims that we have been owned. The citizens of America have been owned since 1861. Now, he's not talking slavery, obviously, and he doesn't even appear to be a minority. So, Timoteo, what do you mean by we have been owned since 1861? Okay, and of course he dropped out. Apparently, he did not want to respond to that. He let me finish the entire. Okay, legacy. This is tyranny by the minority. No war but class war.
Hey,
I don't know about tyranny. Go ahead, legacy. What's up?
I'm actually relatively new to the conversation this morning. I was wondering what your take is on it, on everything.
Okay, the conversation, and by the way, folks, I'm trying to get up to 5,000 likes for you guys who are watching. Tap the screen, help your boy out. We got well over 200 people in here. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. Hell, get me up to 10,000. Brings me more MAGA in here, keeps the crowd going. In regards to Roe versus Wade, I make no qualms about that. I'm a liberal. You see the name above. Even though I can see flaws on the right or the left, I'm not here to bash the right. I'm not here to promote the left. I'm here to entertain a conversation between the two. I do support a woman's right to choose. And the reason I do is because I know all of the down issues or all of the tentacles that are going to come out of this. It's just like, let me say it like this. It's just like with prohibition, the war on drugs, all that. Anytime you outlaw something, you create a black market. You don't stop it. You just create a black market for it. And the black market comes with crime, it comes with incarceration, and it comes with all kinds of broken families and things like that. This is not going to stop abortion. Even folks on the far right admit it's not going to stop abortion. It's just going to create a black market. You're going to be arresting doctors. You're going to have pill pushers, because that's generally how abortion is performed, is with pills nowadays. All of that. You just create a bunch of felons and criminals that normally would not have been felons and criminals. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I personally, I'm pro-life, but I am also a person who doesn't think that we as people have the rights to dictate what others can do by law. So, and it goes beyond abortion. Like, in a sense, that goes as deep as legalized drugs. If you want to destroy your body with drugs, you should have that right. If you want to sell your body for prostitution, you should have that right. If you want to have an abortion, you should have that right. And there shouldn't be any state or federal laws on the books to stop you from doing that. Personally, I don't agree with it. I think there are other humane options that can be chosen, but then again, I'm not a woman. I don't have a uterus, so.
Fair enough. So you're taking the stance of it ain't my body. I'm not going to interfere with it.
I mean, to a degree, I do think that there is a small part of me that wants to fight for the right for the unborn to live, to have that chance. But at the end of the day, it's overweighed by the fact that what as a man can I do to honestly prevent a woman from having an abortion? A law isn't going to do that. As you just said, they're going to find other harmful alternatives to not only themselves, but their unborn children. It's going to result in a whole bunch of arrests, like you said, criminals, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I just wanted to hop on and drop my 2 cents. I appreciate the time.
Oh yeah, anytime. Come on back through there. Fair enough. We'll keep it moving. But I think you and I are on the same page. But yeah, I do appreciate you coming through. All right. Okay. Let's see what's going. All right. Some of you folks in here. Okay. Somebody said, "Can we just vote Biden out?" You got 2 more years. And well, first of all, I don't believe President Biden is going to run again in 2024. But this shit right here, this Roe versus Wade shit, if the goal is to get rid of Biden, this didn't help you. This did not help you. We know the things that lower abortion numbers, healthcare, education, access to contraception. No war but class war. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Certainly, the more assistance you can provide someone after having that child, you want to lower abortion numbers, make it a little bit easier on the mother. Because like I've stated before earlier in the program, the vast majority of abortion requests are coming from women that are at the lower end of the socioeconomical scale. It's socioeconomical end of the scale. So when you start banning abortion, you're doing it for people that a lot of them cannot afford to have a child. Now, we can argue back and forth until we're blue in the face that, well, they should have thought about that before having a baby. That's right. But that's not going to change the hardships they're going to go through by telling them something that is essentially Monday morning quarterbacking. She's pregnant at that point. Telling her you should have thought about how much poverty you're going to go through before you did this is meaningless at that point. We're trying to focus on the poverty at that point. Talking about what she should have did after she's done it has no value in it. So if we could make it easier on these moms, then you probably would have a lot less folks requesting to have this procedure. And that would be food stamps, housing assistance, and all that other shit that you guys are constantly voting down. You're alive too, huh? What's wrong with you with people you're alive? I get what you're trying to say there, but your grammar is so bad. Dreaming pedal too. Getting rid of abortion is just a way to keep people in poverty. I don't know about that. Because, like I said, the minority might become the majority, end up causing issues with elections and things like that, and flipping the whole country. So I can't necessarily say that. Let me go ahead and move on. Let's time again. Tim Mateo. I can see you now. What up? Welcome to the program. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I have been waiting to hear from you. According to your comments, we are all being owned, and that is the way it has been since 1861. So my first question to you is, who owns us?
Okay. Be, be, before I answer you, I'm gonna have to turn off my Bluetooth because it's double echoing. Give me one.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll give them a minute to fix this. CBC. Okay. I can see you. Can you hear me?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right. So who owns us? World Bank.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
If you're paying a house payment, a mortgage, you can't afford to pay your payment one day, what happens to your house?
You own my house. You don't own me.
No. Listen. Just listen to what I'm saying. What happens to your house?
They repossess the house.
The same thing goes with the national debt. That's who owns us. The person who we pay our national debt to owns us. And it's $237 trillion. You're talking about we pay in interest alone $22 trillion a month. In interest alone. You can look it up on the website of the Secretary of Treasury. And here's why I say that.
Okay, for some reason we got real bad feedback. I can hear myself coming through there.
Should I go back in? I think it might be because of my Bluetooth.
Yeah, come back through the program, but cut off your Bluetooth because I can't. It's hard to respond when you hear myself. Okay. All right, we'll let him try. I got obviously rebuttals what he was saying. Chubby Beard. My wife owns me. I like that Disney guy. Maybe you don't even know Angie B. Now on that. Okay. Chubby Bearded. What's up?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing real good.
Hey, thanks for having this conversation. This has been a pretty big problem here. I'm a trans man, so so
I'm not saying wow for any other reason other than you're the first guest I've had that has been openly trans as far as the broadcast is concerned. That's about it. You're welcome on the program without a shadow of a doubt. But go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. What I have to say is, where the big problem is the way I look at it. I mean, I'll be 56, so I grew up and was alive during the Roe V Wade, court trials and all these things that happened, and I knew a little bit about it. But I think what the big issue is that we're not making any type of programs for these women to have these children. Everybody claims that it's easy to raise a child. I have 3 children. I did not birth them, but I have 3 children that I raised with my partner. And I will tell you this, we didn't have any type of help from the government as far as, we had WIC. All right, but that only gave you so much. But at $30-something a pack for diapers with 3 children, and how many diapers do you go through in a freaking day? There's no money.
let me interrupt by saying this. I have not heard of a lot of folks saying that raising a child is easy. That's where I understand where you're coming from on the other stuff, but raising a child is hard. I can't even if you got all of the financial resources in order, just simply directing that child to a straight and civilized path can be difficult. But for us on the lower end of the scale, now I can't imagine anybody saying it's easy.
Right. Well, and the thing is, how do I address you? Are you handsome liberal or liberal? Or handsome? Hey.
You can call me THL. How's that? You can use the acronyms THL. How's that?
All right, GHL. Man, I'll
That's
tell
my
you.
that's my pronoun. That's my pronoun. THL. I identify as THL.
Okay, I like.
Okay, go ahead.
I like that. The thing is, when I had a bunch of people when I was growing up, a bunch of girls that I knew that, and I say a bunch, I'd probably say I can count them on one hand. So 5 that growing up, they had abortions as young teenagers because they made, choices. But for a young
that should have
child,
been allowed? Do you think it should be allowed for a minor to terminate a pregnancy?
Yes, I do, because especially if they don't have support by their family, I think that's a big thing. What 13 to 17-year-old, and I say 13 because 13-year-olds can get pregnant. What 13 to 17-year-old child can, if without parental support, can raise a child?
It's a good point. Real quick, in regards to the comments, Troll Patroller, you said Plan B. Keep in mind, folks, a lot of states believe that life begins at conception. That would mean Plan B is a drug used to commit a murder. Keep that in mind.
Right.
If you believe life begins at conception, Plan B is to terminate the child after it has been conceived. So, for you guys who are suggesting using Plan B and IUD, or even some forms of birth control, they can all terminate the child after conception. So essentially, you'd have to admit some states, if not all of the states that are anti-abortion, are going to eventually outlaw those methods of birth control. Go ahead, Chubby.
No, and that was the point I was also going to bring forward, is everybody keeps talking about, Plan B and IUDs and everything, where you're still killing the child, whether or not it becomes a fetus or not. You're still. So what do we do? And then everybody says, well, just close your legs. Just close your, yeah, right. Okay, I don't care what anybody says, I mean, come on now, sex feels good. And if you're in that mood.
Telling people to just close their legs sounds a lot like Just Say No in the 1980s. And we know what happened with Just Say No.
Right.
With the drug war. We know how that failed. Well,
and I mean, I just feel bad because, I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I have always tried to be very open and upfront with her to let her know that if you're going to have sex, protect yourself. That's, make sure there's protection. However, if she was to get pregnant, I wouldn't want her to have an abortion, but it's not my choice for her body. I would support her, but there's not parents who are out there that are like me.
That's 100% true. I want to say something real quick. I always point out creative names, and this comment is, somebody put a comment in here. It says vasectomies are a same-day procedure, easily reversible, covered by insurance. First of all, it's not easily reversible. Second thing is the name is so creative. That one Dyke 11 is the name. So, but no, vasectomies are they're not easily reversible. But your name, but this person is right. I'm gonna say she, I assume. It is a same day procedure, and it is covered by insurance. But go ahead, Chubby.
Right. So it's like, so here's the problem that I see, THL, is that what do? Because I live in Michigan, and if Roe V Wade is done with, we go back to what we call a zombie law here. And I'm calling it that because that's what it is. It's a 1931 law where abortions are told if you do it, you will be put in jail, and that's in Michigan.
Wow. I thought Michigan, what you got Governor Whitmer out there. Is she down with that?
Oh no, she's been really pushing for for abortion rights to be upheld here, and I'll tell you, uh, she gets a rough ride though, man. They are all over her. They call her the witch, and they do all kinds of stuff here about her. Yeah, Big Gretch. They call her Big Gretch.
I think
But I'll tell you something.
I think your governor is a cutie, by the way. But I will say this. Well, I guess I'd ask this question. Now, is she up for re-election in this year, or is it down the line? Is it time for her to be?
It's this year. It's this year.
What are the polls on her? I hate to go off on the Governor Whitmer, but I like her. What are the polls for her?
Well, they don't. It all depends on if the Republicans keep their mouth shut. we've got some.
Why would you keep your mouth shut when you think the candidate is very ineffective? They're not going to keep their mouth shut. In fact, like trash can Wave says, we are getting her ass out next election. So no, and somebody else said this year she's gone. So what are the polls on her remaining in office?
Not good.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, listen. I got somebody else as usual trying to get in here, but hey,
Thanks.
First time you came through. I think I may have, something now that somebody else mentioned you. I think I may have seen your page as well. I think either I'm a follower or I've seen some of your content, but I'll look you up after the broadcast. It definitely a good call. All right,
thanks, man. Peace.
Hey, anytime. Okay. Who else is out there? Okay, Timothy, we're gonna try this one. Oh no! Hopefully, you got your Bluetooth turned off.
We're good.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We're good.
I can hear you. Yeah. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly well. Loud and clear, sir. Okay, before
now,
I say anything else, I want to say
go ahead.
Mother's Day to all the mamas. First and foremost, I got 4 kids myself, so happy Mother's Day to my mamas. And to say my quick stance on all the other stuff that we're talking about here, no man has the right to tell any other man what they can or can't do in this country.
Whoa, wait.
And there's far too many.
Let me hear that again. I think I didn't hear that right. You said no man has to say it again.
No man has the right to tell any other man what they can or can't do in this country.
I knew I hurt you.
It's true.
Okay, I know where you're going with that. I get where you're going with that, so I'm gonna leave that alone.
No man does.
Okay.
No man does.
What about a woman? What about a man telling a woman what to do?
A man and a woman are the same damn thing, man. There ain't no difference. What are you talking about?
I knew it. I knew you were coming with that. Okay, I'm gonna let that go because it's pretty obvious what you're trying to get a point. But in regards to being owned since 1861, I disagree with you on the notion that you're talking financial. What if you live off the grid? What if you don't owe any money in the national deficit?
Tell me how in the world the United States could ever live off the grid.
There's plenty of people that live out in the middle of no damn where
I'm talking
that
about
have
us
no.
as a country. See, you don't know the history of the national debt. Then, you want me to give you the history?
How does being owned as an American citizen? How does being owned affect me? I can do whatever I want to do. Tell me. Now, when you look at slavery, it's pretty clear how being owned had an adverse reaction to a slave. As an American living in 2022, tell me how being owned interferes with my life.
Let me explain.
What can I not do because I'm owned?
I'm going to explain it to you real quick. Easy too. Okay, since you're owned, what have you been working for every day of your life? What do you earn? Money, correct?
Right.
What did the slaves earn? Nothing, right?
Right.
And during the slave times, they earned no money, right?
Right.
Okay, your money has absolutely no value. It has no gold backing and no silver backing. It has no value since 1972. Look it up.
Okay.
And
if I want something,
what we've been paid with, is
Wait a
fake
minute.
money.
Wait a minute.
Hang on, listen. It's fiat money. You understand that, right? It's fiat money. Look it up. Google it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so fiat money means it's just a promissory note. That's what you have in your hand. That's the truth. Look it up. Google it.
Okay,
Now,
here's the problem. Here's the problem I have with your statement.
here's what you
If
gotta understand.
hold on,
Let me
hang
just
on,
finish,
hold
because
on,
you'll
hold
understand me
on.
when I get done.
You throwing too much out there. You got to give me a chance to respond to some of it. You can't just throw it.
Okay,
By the
go for it.
time I'll be on forgot something. Okay, let me just say this. Your point that my money has no value. If I want something to eat right now, let's say I'm dying of hunger and I want a meal, I can take my valueless money, go to the store, and come back with a meal. How are you going to tell me that that money was not valuable? Without it, I would not have that meal.
Because that money has no value. It hasn't had value since 1972. Look it
It
up.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's money or if
It's
it's a
gonna
piece of.
matter soon. Here's why.
Okay, you're not hearing what I'm.
Okay, because the
You're
topic
not hearing
that's
what I'm
most
saying.
important right now, that one I was talking about earlier, when I was in the message in the comments earlier, and I said there's other topics that are much more important. The topic I was talking about was just this. It's because you haven't seen it yet, and nobody's talking about it because they're too busy talking about Roe versus Wade. But the fact of the matter is, the United Nations is in the process of making an announcement about our liberties as Americans, and nobody's even focused on it. They're about to
Okay,
default us for being bankrupt for the third time. Our
okay,
country's been bankrupt 3 times, bro, and that's
okay.
why
Well,
I say we're owned.
I will go back to my. I will go back to my original statement. Is that it doesn't matter if it's an actual banknote or whatever you want to call a dollar bill or legal tender, or if it's a piece of dirt. If I need something and I can hand you dirt and you give me what I need, as far as I'm concerned, that is valuable to me. It doesn't
How about
matter about
this?
what you're talking about on a global scale. If I can hand you this and you give me that, it is valuable to me. It may not
You
be
get
valuable it
okay.
may
Let me
not
ask you
have
this.
gold to back it up and all of that, but it's valuable.
Let me ask you this. Do you have credit card bills, car payments, house payments, things like that you pay? Okay.
All of that.
What if I was to tell you that your entire life you could have not had to pay a single dollar for any of those by law, and because they hid it from you, you didn't know that? Look up coupon for payment on Google, okay, and see
Okay.
what you find. Listen, check it out. I'm telling you right now. All you have to do is Google it. You'll see it. It All you had to do all this time was write a law on the front of the payment page, and on the bottom, change that coupon that they give you on the bottom that's detachable. You write on there money order and a couple of other things, and you just got to learn how to write it right, and that bill gets
Okay. Well,
paid
well, let me.
directly. 100% of the bill gets paid right out by using your trust account that they created for you when you were born. It's called your SKV
Okay. Well,
trust.
let me
You know
say.
about that?
Let me say this. Let me say no. I don't know about any of this, but let me say this because we are talking about the reversal of Roe versus Wade. Now, obviously, your topic is going way in a whole different direction.
But dude,
Um,
I can
yeah,
tell
I
you
don't.
right
I
now,
mean,
every American has this hidden from them. A Sesta KV trust is a trust that they create when you're born. When your birth certificate is created, it goes from the birth certificate creation place to the Department of Commerce. That's where they give you a social security number, and that's where you get your account. Your social security
so
number is an account with the Secretary of Treasury in the United States. That's what that
okay,
is.
I got a really good comment. Somebody in the comments, Trash Can Waves. Here's the question. He said, "What did you buy your car with?" Kind of like the Capital One. What's in your wallet? He wants to know how did you buy your car?
Hang on, that's easy to say. I've been studying this now for 3 years. My car's 3 years old. Okay, I've been studying it. Listen, hey, what's so funny? I don't do anything without investigating everything first, bro. I can show you for sure now. I've done $52,000 worth of bills. I've done that now. I'll show you the bills, and I'm telling you right now. Google it. It's called.
So you just learning this thing.
Listen,
You
here's
new to
why.
the game,
Here's
in other
why. I'll
words.
tell you why. In 1973, when Richard Nixon went to take us off to gold standard, Congress didn't want to let him. So what Congress did was they told him because what they were going to do was leave us with no valuable money at all, because nobody has gold or silver, and they couldn't do that. So what they had to do was create a remedy. That remedy,
Okay.
okay, you can look it up. It's in it's history. You can look it up. That remedy that they created, it made it so all debts are paid for all Americans. All debts are paid. Look it up.
All right. Okay, well,
Look it
listen,
up.
man. I want to let you, as usual. I want to let people say what they, This
Bro,
is free speech in here.
this is
This is
the
free
most
speech in here.
important thing in every American's
Okay,
life. You know
I'm
why?
gonna
Because
give you. I'm
what
gonna
they're about
give
to do is
you.
default us.
Wait. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to wrap it up because I want to get back to the topic. I give you 30 seconds. Complete your point, but I want to get back to topic. Go ahead.
They're about to default us on the loans that they've been giving us, and because we're in our third bankruptcy, okay. And the thing about it is, the national debt was secured by collateral. That collateral they used to secure it was our names, every American citizen, past, present, and future. So that thing's in our names, and because of that, they created a remedy in 1973 that made it so no American had to pay any bills with cash. We only had to use a instrument of payment, is what they changed the name to. So because of that, you don't have to have any money to pay your bills. And yes, I've been studying it for 3 years, and I've been practicing it now for 9 months. And I've paid off $52,000 in bills. I haven't gone to get a car yet, but I just found a real estate agent that I'm working with as of yesterday. So I am working on that as well. You can walk into any
Someone
house
asked.
and
So,
any car dealership and pay for the whole thing with 4 pieces of paper. And it all comes out of your trust account that they created for you when you were born.
you trying to get me shot? Look, do you lean
I
right
swear
or
to God,
left?
it's true. I know my history. I'm not bullshit.
Do you lean right or left politically?
I'm an anarchist.
Okay. All right. Well, I gave you a chance to get your mind across. Let me move on, man. You have a good one. Okay. I don't know where to go with that. I don't know where to go with that. But like I say, folks, all the time, I'm a strong advocate of free speech. I let folks get their point across, even if I vehemently disagree. In his case, I can't necessarily say I totally disagree because he's talking stuff I've never heard of. I'm I am in the camp that I do believe the U.S. dollar is no longer backed by gold, but is it worthless? That I don't believe. In fact, out of all of the different type of banknotes you can accumulate around the world, the U.S. dollar is probably the one of the most valued ones you can get your hands on because everybody fucking takes it. So I don't know where he came from in saying that the U.S. dollar has no value. Also, he suggested that we are owned and it's all financially related. I don't see how we're owned. I mean, but he's talking about, I guess, our wealth in terms of the national deficit and things like that. But when you look at the way most Americans live in this country, even if you're dirt poor as an American, you're probably middle class in most other countries. So if this is what ownership looks like, then hell, consider me owned. Shit, I mean, it is what it is. Okay, let me get back to the comments because he went in a different direction. But like I said, I do allow folks to get their point across. I allow them to speak. Someone doesn't understand inflation. Okay, and also he mentioned something about you being able to, for the most part, to accumulate everything you want without having to pay for it, your house, your car, and all of that kind of stuff. And that's why I told him, like, you trying to get me shot. I go walking into a Cadillac dealership talking this shit. I'm gonna walk up out of there. What does it? They be don't call it the Detroit Urban Survival Guy on me. Be don't put me in a headlock or some shit. Be like running on the stage trying to tackle Dave Chappelle or something. Get my ass beat. Your name is money by Social Security. Trump is racist against liberals. That came from AJD. You gotta elaborate. You gotta when you say a statement, you make a comment like that is that inflammatory. Tell me why. Tell me why you think that Trump is racist against liberals. You didn't say against Muslims or Hispanics or African. You said against liberals. And obviously, liberals are not a race, but elaborate on your comment. Liberalism is a disease. And that came from Joey Boombots or whatever. What is Republicanism the cure? I don't get that one either. The Mona Lisa, what's that worth? U.S. dollar is worthless. Okay, then what are you carrying in your pocket there, MK Winner? If the U.S. dollar is worthless, how are you paying your bills? Seriously, when you go get fuel for your car, how are you paying for it? Since the U.S. dollar has no value, federal taxation gives the U.S. dollar its value. The U.S. dollar is backed by something. Let me scroll forward because we're still in that conversation, obviously. Paper money is going to be the downfall of human civilization. Well, they're starting to move just about everything to digital. In fact, as worthless as people saying paper money is, in my opinion, you are most secure if you have your assets in paper money as opposed to digital. Look at what has happened to a lot of the Russian oligarchs. They had ridiculous amounts of money. Overnight, the United States just started seizing all of their shit. If they had all of their wealth in the form of paper money in their possession, they would still have it. But because their wealth is digital, it's in bank accounts and things like that, where the United States can easily, go to states and friendly countries of choice and just basically put a hold on it and seize it. They don't have it anymore. Some of those folks got significantly more impoverished overnight just because of the Biden administration. So when you say paper money is worthless, I bet you they would rather have their hands on some American bills. Saddam Hussein, when they found him, he was hiding in a hole with about $750,000 in U.S. currency on him in paper. So when it really boils down to it, they do realize now the paper money is what we actually want, because anybody will take that. Cash, baby. Yeah, what is the phrase? Cash is king. They don't say a credit card is king. They don't even say gold is king. They say cash is king. Put the needles in everyone versus my body, my choice. Mischief, number 2. That's a legitimate point, but it shows the hypocrisy on both sides. You want if you want to criticize the liberals, it becomes you guys are in favor of my body, my choice, but you tried to force us to take a jab. Well, you're doing the same thing in reverse. When it came to taking a jab, you were saying I get to control what I want to do with my body, and now you're pro-life. So the hypocrisy is kind of on both sides. Angie B says, what policy did Biden create to cause inflation? Says Lobo Warrior. I believe if I had to answer that question, I would suggest that what he did with fossil fuels, he tried to move this country over from fossil fuels to alternative energies, which I'm in favor of, but he tried to do it too fucking quick. He tried to do it before we had enough infrastructure on that side to make that a reality, which is why you got Kamala Harris saying, well, just go out and buy a $60,000 car. And most Americans can't afford that shit. Most of us can't afford a Tesla. So once he moved things to alternative energies, shutting down the pipeline, making drilling a little bit more difficult, making independent energy reliance in this country a little bit more difficult, he shot up the price of fossil fuels. And since there's not enough Americans getting their fuel from an alternative source, they still were paying those inflated prices. How does that affect inflation? Well, everything you purchase just about comes to you by form of a truck, a train, or an airplane. And they all use this fuel that is now shot up in price. Now, it's happening on a world stage as well, but I'm talking about here in this country. I'm talking about things that the Biden administration has implemented on us. And yeah, by him doing that, yeah, it has increased inflation. I'm telling you that as a liberal, folks. I'm not here to bash the right or bash the left. I'm just simply saying the numbers state this, that Biden has had a big play in what has happened with inflation. Let's see. You can type your social security number in at the gas pump. You guys are crazy with that. Digital money will be our downfall as a country. I'm more in line with that, Jason Stewart, 1013. I am more along the lines that having digital money can put you at risk, which is why a lot of folks who are very wealthy, particularly when a liberal gets in there and stuff, like if Bernie Sanders had got elected, I guarantee a lot of those, the ultra wealthy people would be trying to physically get their hands on their currency, because you don't want somebody to be able to pass a law and suddenly what you got in the bank can just be nilly-dilly taken from you or taxed real heavy or whatever. So that digital money could be a downfall to some degree. Timoteo back in the comments, it's in our name and they are about to foreclose on us. Who can foreclose on the United States? With all of the power and weaponry we have, who can actually foreclose on us? Hell, they had a hard time foreclosing on David Koresh. Imagine trying to do it on the United States. That's not going to happen. Unless we just, roll over and submit. But now, what are you going to foreclose from the United States? It's like, this is what I would put our national debt and trying to put a claim on our national debt akin to. It would be like making a 1 in a million bet with the mob. Let's say you got a mafia bookie. Mike Tyson in his heyday is having a fight against a trans girl or something like that, where the odds in favor of the girl are like one in a million, and you place money on that girl and she happens to beat Mike Tyson, and that bookie does not have the money to pay you. He's part of the mob. What are you gonna do? You're gonna go attack the muscle. You're not gonna get your money. That's it. Yeah, he owes you a ton of money. Technically, his outfit, you have bankrupted his outfit. But there's nothing you can do to get the fucking money. He's the mafia. They're going to tell you we'll pay you when we get it. If they agree to pay you at all. Listen, you want more money than me and the boys can afford to pay. We're going to give you, 10% every 6 months until you pay it off. What can you say? You don't have any other options. What, are you going to start a fight with the mob? So that's how the United States is on this. No matter how much inflation we have, who's going to come take it? You talk about come and take it times 330 million people. Come and take it. Come and take it. We just owe you. That's what's going to happen. The Saudis and OPEC makes the rules. Yeah, until we go to alternative energy. And if they start doing things too fast, then we'll speed up the process. The only reason we don't have stronger values in alternative energy is because of big oil and OPEC and those folks. If we were forced to promote our technologies in terms of alternative energy, we could move that shit a lot faster. But big oil has been making it so that, windmills cause cancer and all of this shit. Yeah, but if we really wanted to do it, we could do it a lot faster than we are doing it. Is debt. Michelle Obama is really Michael. I get a lot of folks in here claiming that Michelle, what is that, Pamela, I can't pronounce the name, Pamela or something, suggesting that Michelle Obama was born a man or whatever. I get that stuff all the time. So I guess that means Sasha and Malia, it's not her kids. And obviously you believe Barack Obama was born somewhere else. You guys come across as crazy with that shit. I guess if you believe Michelle Obama is a man, you also believe Donald Trump and Melania got together out of genuine love, huh? You don't see no trophy wife in that at all, huh? Is debt denominated in one's own flat currency really debt as most? You're worried. I don't get that, Jonathan. Thin wall wizard. We need to nationalize our oil, natural gas, water, telecom, and electricity infrastructure. Yeah, but you got to be willing to pay Americans an American salary. The reason why we do a lot of shit on a global scale is because the elites in this country don't want to fucking pay anybody. That's why you got all of this shit coming from everywhere else. USA loan the United States loans other countries money also. That is true, Jerry Lawson, because Zelensky owes us his life. Zelensky of the Ukraine, they owe us their whole damn life. So does France from World War II. There's a whole bunch of folks out there that owe us big time. All the people that, in fact, let me not even go there. But we got a lot of favors we could call up if we needed to. When will we get a pregnant picture of Michelle Obama? Why? Why would you? Seriously, how would you feel if somebody went to your wife or your husband, if you're married or whatever, and demanded that they show proof that they're a woman or a man? Wouldn't you be really insulted if you were out having ice cream with your wife and somebody walked up and started calling your wife a man and said, "Show me proof you're a woman"? Do you realize how bad that sounds? Seriously. Let me see here. I'm not a public official. It doesn't matter if you're a public official or not. Something that insulting, and neither is Michelle Obama, by the way, either at this point. She's just a citizen at this point. But do you realize being a public official does not exclude that from being incredibly offensive? You're not talking about, show us your policies on green energy. You're talking about, show me that you are representing the right gender. That has nothing to do with politics at all. Nothing at all. That's just a horribly insulting thing to do to somebody. Let me see here. The amount of energy we need cannot be produced without nuclear. Mr. Josh. Well, in some parts of the country, I would say that actually applies more than others. I would say in the southern half of this country, there's a lot that could be done with solar energy. You're not going to power everything, but you could power enough that maybe you could free up energy to power some of the more energy things that draw more energy, like say, for instance, air conditioning. You're not going to run an air conditioner off of solar panels, but you could run your TV, potentially a refrigerator, your lighting for your house. You could do all of that, and then you wouldn't draw as much energy from the grid for the bigger stuff. Solar isn't as green as nuclear and hydro. Depends on who you ask, and it also depends on the technology of the panels. Right now, solar panels have a lifespan of about 25 years. That's not to say that won't improve. Listen, folks, the best way to improve this stuff is to start using this stuff more. As we start, right now we've been so focused on staying with fossil fuels that the alternative energies still are down in the weeds as far as their development. But as they start being used more and more, the technologies for them will grow. Let's see here. How about heating for home and cars, and how, what else it says? And how would you produce energy for electric cars? Well, the electric cars right now we know is being ran off the grid, and there's fossil fuels that run the grid to energize electric cars. But this goes back to what I just said to the person that posted before, is that once you start using this stuff in higher quantities, newer technologies will come out. It's as long as we keep trying to stay with the old, it's going to reduce the strength in developing the new. Some of the questions you guys are asking have no current answer to them, but they will as time goes on. They will find better and better ways to do this. They got a mind for the minerals. Now those lithium polymer batteries, those can be troublesome. Those actually can be troublesome. We'll see what happens. And I fly remote control airplanes and stuff like that. In fact, I got a ton of these things laying around here. I mean, I probably got 50, 60 of these batteries, and these things, they're toxic and they can explode. I mean, even little small ones. I literally have, I have so many of these lithium polymer batteries for different applications, from flying aircraft, remote control cars, and I know when you short them out, they can literally burst into flames. Are electric cars cheaper than gas? Not right now, Angie B909, not right now, because electric cars are the new thing. It would be like asking the price of a DVD player in the mid-90s, $400 or $500. Now a DVD player, $20, $25. You got to give it time to develop. And right now, the vast majority of cars on the street are not electric. I would say in 20 years, yeah, electric cars are probably going to be a lot cheaper. You need more of them out there. You need more folks tinkering around with them, more folks that are incentivized to work on them and things like that, and to further their technologies and stuff. But it will happen. But right now, no, electric cars are not cheaper than gas. I mean, at the electric pump, Angie B, on that. I don't know, because there's more to fueling an electric car. There's more to comparing the two than just what you pay at the pump, because maintenance and all. I mean, what is the maintenance expenses that are involved in an electric car versus a car with alternative energy? But at the beginning of the conversation, you got to take into consideration it costs a lot more to simply purchase an electric car. So I'd have to really I don't know what it costs to fill up an electric car. I've had no experience with it, so I can't say fill up which one is more expensive. I mean, I know if you fill up a gas powered car, you generally get anywhere from 250 to about 400 plus miles of range out of a tank of gas, depending on the car and all of that. Electric cars is going to be less than that. Electric cars tend to be less than that. So, and also the time it takes to fill up a gas powered car. How long do you spend at the pump? If your car is bone dry, you generally can have it completely full in less than 5 minutes. That doesn't apply in the electric world. What they're looking at in the electric world is making it so that they replace the whole battery. You pull up to the pump or a charging station or whatever, and they literally slide the current battery from under your car, from under the frame, and put a whole new one in, and you drive off. That's what they're talking about doing to compete with the time it takes to recharge an electric car versus filling one up at the pump, because it can take a half hour or more, in some cases hours, depending on how fast you want to put the energy back in the battery. So they're talking about potentially just doing battery swaps. But all of this is, like I said, folks, all of this is still new. This is all still new. So on the electric side, the expenses are going to be much higher because we're talking about new technology. Trump did warp speed the vaccines. That is true. If I can't pronounce your name, F something. Yeah, Trump is responsible for warp speed. You listen to the CDC; he's responsible for saving the lives of tens of millions of people. However, because of his chaotic rollout of the vaccine, he can't even take credit for it. If he gets up in front of his own audience and starts bragging about bringing the vaccine to the American public, they will boo him. And that has already happened. So that's really bad on his part. But he is responsible for Operation Warp Speed. What about the rednecks that's using an extension cord from their neighbors? Unapologetic black man, welcome back to the program. That shit takes forever. If you're going to use a regular 120 volt outlet, 20 to 30 amps to charge a car battery, that is going to take forever. In fact, I got an e-bike I just went riding on yesterday, and it's off to the side here. You can't see it, but I'm charging it. Just an e-bike takes 4 hours to charge that. I think it's putting out about 2 or 3 amps per hour. It takes a long time to charge these things. That's why they're talking about battery swaps. Cart before the horse. That would apply to going to alternative energies before we were ready. So I agree. The vaccine is, I can't even say this because I don't know if TikTok would like it or not, but you're saying the vaccine is not, you're saying it's harmful, toxic, you know the P word. Why get a shot that doesn't even work? And they keep telling people to get more. Let me say this. This is something I don't understand. It's very hypocritical. My favorite audience, MAGA. This is a MAGA related question. Because there's a lot of folks just like Pamela, what does that say? Pamela Lama, 2011, it says the vaccine is toxic, essentially poison. And he's saying, why get a shot that doesn't even work? And they keep telling people to get more. How do you guys, you MAGA folks, believe that he is one of the best presidents in history if he's promoting his entire population to take poison? I have to ask that. If you really support Trump and you really believe he is one of the best presidents in history, how can you explain that when he's also asking you to take? I mean, this sounds like something out of the Kool-Aid drinker guy out there on the West Coast in California, Jonesboro or whatever, where he had the folks drink Kool-Aid and they died. You're saying in one hand he's awesome, he's fantastic, but on the other hand he's telling us to drink something that's going to kill us all. Can somebody explain that reasoning, that logic to me? Jim Jones, somebody explain that to me. If you think this shit is truly toxic, how can you be suggesting that the guy who's telling everybody to use it is the best president of all time? I've asked this to many Trump supporters, and I've never gotten a legitimate answer for that. Because here is Rescue Michael saying that Biden is a joke and is connected to New World Order. Yeah, but the other guy's connected to poison. He's connected to poison. How do you explain that? I got the shot because if the street drugs didn't get me, I ain't scared. Okay, all right, fair enough. They put poison in our food, says Angie B909. It's hard to argue because there's so many different types of foods. I do know pesticides and things going on. I don't know where to go with that. Are folks eating food and just simply dropping dead like they're claiming the vaccine is going to do? I don't see that. I don't 100% agree with anybody. That's a cult. That's what that sounds like. That is what that sounds like, is that you're telling me that this guy is the greatest of all time while simultaneously suggesting that he's telling everybody to take a poison and that the poison will work when you don't think the poison works. This is a huge conflict. I don't get it. President Kushner. Sugar preservatives, red dye. Yeah, but that stuff doesn't... I want to see somebody eat a sugar preservative and they're dead within 6 months. Then it's poison. Also thorium. I don't know enough about that to speak on that. The pressure of the public to get a vaccine out thinking it was helpful, but Dr. Fauci is the one killing. Well, Rescue Michael, if you want to say that Fauci is Trump is promoting it. Trump was on TV with Fauci for almost a month straight every night. Right now in 2022, he's telling people that this stuff works. He's saying you have the freedom to take it whether you want to or not, but he's suggesting that you take it. If it's poison, can you explain that? You don't get to downgrade it to Fauci. This man is suggesting that you take it and he wants to be president. How do you explain that? If you genuinely think this is poison, how do you explain your choice of president, the one you think is one of the best presidents in recent history, telling his citizens, his constituents, to take poison? How can you explain that? Let's keep it real. Which side promoting it the most? Okay, so now we went from who's promoting it to who's promoting it the most. I mean, Your Honor, listen, Your Honor. I only killed one guy. Just Jeffrey Dahmer killed a bunch of them. What kind of argument is that? Either you're guilty of the shit or you're not. He's promoting that you take it. The fact that he's not promoting it as much as Biden makes a difference. If it's poison, it's poison. Anybody involved in it should be treated as a co-conspirator to you ingesting poison. I don't understand why he didn't promote it the most. That sounds like making an excuse for him. Trump, the Trump coach says, right, okay. I'm going to vote for Trump, though. I know you are a trash can wave. I'm not telling you not to vote for Trump. I'm just saying that this right here sounds very hypocritical. That you believe the guy that is promoting poison is the best guy to run the country. That doesn't make sense to me. And to you, it shouldn't make sense at all. It shouldn't make sense as well. It kind of blows out the theory that this stuff may be poison is what I'm talking about. Or it does make you look like a cult follower or something like that. Where you're suggesting, yeah, I know it's poison. Yeah, I do realize he's telling all of the constituents to vote for it. But at the end of the day, we don't have to take the poison. We don't, yeah, he's telling us to take poison and it's going to kill us all, but I didn't take it. We don't have to do it. It's just the president telling us to. You realize how horrible that sounds, right? Promotion is promotion, doesn't matter what side it comes from. Exactly, Jason Stewart. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. Mook 86. You're taking it out of context. That's not what Trump meant. Trump humpers. You're being sarcastic and saying that's what they're saying. Yeah, exactly. Because no, there's no way to take that out of context. You said that's what they're trying to, yeah, I don't know where to go with that. Well, if you lose your job, if you don't take it, is it really a choice? I don't care what kind of job I have. I don't care how much money I'm making. If they told me to take arsenic, I would not use that as an excuse to ingest arsenic or ricin or anthrax. If it's something that I am 100% certain is poison, I'm not going to ingest that just to say because I kept. If you're going to be dead, the job doesn't matter. Why even bring into the argument, well, they said I had to do this to keep my job. If you're going to be dead, you're probably going to be missing work sometime soon. So why would you take this, considering this poison, just to keep a job when you believe you're going to lose your life in the future? That doesn't make sense. Forget your starving family. Don't take it. Listen, which one is more valuable to your family? You dying or them starving while you look for a different job? If you believe it's poison, there is no legitimate excuse to take it. Period. You can come up with all of these wild ass, lame ass excuses you want, but if you believe something is poison, you talk about self-reliance, personal responsibility, but you're okay with deliberately putting what you think is poison in your system. You're coming up with excuses for that. You might as well join the pro-choice crowd. I thought there was a whole narrative of not enough workers. I love it. Some of the shit you guys are saying here. Wait, I thought there was a whole narrative of not enough workers. There must be other jobs. Like, if you're going to be dead, I don't think any of that matters. Starving the government is giving out food stamps like nothing. Well, Angie B, once we ban abortion and force all of these women at the bottom end of the socioeconomical scale to have all these children, you better be prepared to start giving out food stamps like it's nothing. Because that's what's going to happen. You know what you're up against. Yeah, T-Mac. 90% that died of COVID in the last 6 months were unvaccinated. I've heard that since the vaccination came around, most of the folks losing their lives were unvaccinated. But I know this crowd probably has heard something else. In fact, a lot of these folks believe that the vaccinated are the ones that are dropping. Biden said we will get our oil from other countries. Biden might not know what he's talking about. Hence why I'll never get the damn thing. Look, that one dyke, that name. I'll say this. I'm 100% pro-choice, whether it's Roe versus Wade, which is what we were talking about, or whether it's getting vaccinated. I'm 100% pro-choice on that, so I don't have a problem with that. But the idea that it's poison and all of that is where you lose me at. I don't. There's absolutely no solid evidence that what they're using for vaccine is harmful to that nature. And of course, then you'd have to explain why Trump is promoting it, among other presidents. In fact, all of the living presidents, from Carter on up, all of the living presidents are promoting it, and I believe they all have publicly stated that they've all been vaccinated, including Trump and his family. COVID was released to get rid of Trump. He knew it and needed a fix ASAP. Liberals ate it up. Liberals ate him up. Liberals ate him up. That's why he's chilling currently in Mar-a-Lago. Let me scroll forward here. So anyway, let me get back off the vax. So that was what this conversation was about. I'm just going to ask you guys, do you believe at the end of the day, the decision being made to reverse Roe versus Wade is in the best interest of this country? Do you believe the outcome from doing this will be a positive outcome for this country? Or do you believe there may be tentacles, like I do, that we are going to end up having to pay a price for? There's a lot of yeses and nos in here. Look at the news. We have more than 350 pro soccer players that just dropped on live TV. We have more than 350 pro soccer players that just dropped online, all at the same time. Wait a minute. I'm literally rolling Fox News right behind this conversation. I got a big 70-inch playing Fox News. I don't see nothing about 350 people dying on live TV. I don't see that on the news. What news channel are you watching? Negative outcome. It is not a decision. I guess here's the issue I have on this. If we outlaw abortion, what about the activities of the mother-to-be? And I've used this, and you guys let me know. Is it murder or is it something else? Let's say a husband or a boyfriend offered to take his girlfriend or wife to Six Flags or an amusement park, and she's been dying to go. It's going to involve roller coasters and all of the things that a pregnant woman should not get involved in. She finds out that she's pregnant maybe a month or two before the trip comes up. She does not want to miss her first chance to go to Six Flags. Maybe she doesn't tell her boyfriend she's pregnant and just figures, I can make it. I'll be okay. Maybe she reads the wrong news or something like that. Gets her hands on some fake news that says roller coaster rides aren't that bad for pregnant women. Getting on the bumper cars will not affect the pregnant woman. And she does it. And has a miscarriage. Should she be charged with a crime if they can prove she knew she was pregnant and got involved in this type of activity anyway? Because this is the stuff that's going to come out. I mean, let's say you can get you got your hands on a career job or something that you've always wanted, and you have the interview, you get offered the job, and before you start working, you find out you're pregnant, and this is not the type of job you do for being pregnant, and it causes you to have a miscarriage. Are we going to start charging those moms for essentially child abuse? I mean, just keep in mind. Okay, a trash can wave says you're reaching. How is that reaching? You're going to tell me this absolutely could never happen? You're telling me the stuff that I'm saying, there's no way possible this could ever happen. Whereas a mom-to-be could do something that is not in the best interest of a pregnant mom. There's no way you can. I mean, whether it's drunk driving, there's so many things you can do while pregnant that is not in the best interest of the child growing up inside of you. Tons of things you could do. What about drug use? The mom that's pregnant, she gets involved in drug use, and it affects the baby or causes the life of the baby. You know how many pregnant moms show up in maternity wards all the time that have been on drugs? What do you mean it's reaching? This shit happens all the time. If a baby suffocates and they think you have shown neglect, you can be charged. Okay, and that's the question I'm asking. Yes, New York, 3 times more black babies are aborted than born. Planned Parenthood are racist. No, I don't agree with that. Oh, better days in regards to saying that Planned Parenthood is racist because they abort black babies. Because abortion is a choice. They're not forcing African Americans to come in and abort their babies. The African American women are coming in and aborting their babies because they don't believe they're going to get a lot of assistance and they can't afford to have the baby. That's why they're aborting their babies. If they knew once the child was born, they would have easy access to food stamps and some of these entitlements that you don't want, I bet that abortion number will go down. So I'm not going to call Planned Parenthood a racist because they're letting a woman exercise their free choice. They're not going to these communities and having Planned Parenthood parties. You know, first 100 people show up, get a free abortion or some shit like that. Then it would be a different story. Let's see here. You mean planned death? Oh my God. Thanks, hey, for them roses. Appreciate that. Michaela, I see a few of you folks are sending roses. Absolutely. Appreciate that. Good shit. And by the way, see if we can get my likes up. Almost 250 of us partying together. Get my likes up to 15,000, if you will. See if we can bring some more MAGA into this crowd. Get this really going. Tap the screen. Show your boys some love. How about having a family instead of worrying about what the government give to them? Yeah, you're making my argument for me. What happens if a woman is pregnant and she knows long before giving birth that the dad is not going to be there? Her parents aren't happy. You know, maybe it's a black girl that slept with a white guy and the parents are not happy that she slept with a white guy, or vice versa, which has happened throughout history. So you're not going to get any parental support. The baby daddy don't want to deal with your family, so he don't already took off running. So you know you're doing this alone. You need that assistance that you're talking about. The family option is best. I agree with you. But that's not always possible. That's not always possible. So what do? You end up having a child, depressed, potentially wanting those entitlements that you don't want to give, and you're creating a struggling mom. A lot of scumbag Trump states don't make good choices. Okay. Margaret Sanger, that's enough. One person, huh? One person. And I see your profile picture there. How about, let's see here. Let me scroll forward. They know they have the recessive gene. That's why they want to ban abortions. Ooh, Texas. Ow, that's painful. Force her, then force him. I don't get your comment there, Angie. Force her, then force him? I don't get what you're trying to say there. Potentially is now how laws should be made on potentially. Stop and frisk is potentially based, isn't it? So a whole lot of our laws that are made on potential. Yeah, when you get pulled over by the police, you put your hands on 10 and 2 because you potentially may be trying to harm him. And he's already afraid of that. There's all kinds of shit we do based on potential. It's becoming a cultural thing. There are 3 times more PPH clinics in black areas. Planned Parenthood. Okay, so you're saying there's three times more Planned Parenthood clinics in black areas. It's still a choice, though. They're not forcing. There's 3 times more. There's liquor stores. I grew up in Chicago. We have a ton of liquor stores in our community. And I have never had a drink in my life. Not even a beer. Not even a wine cooler. Not one alcoholic beverage. And I lived in the hood on the south side of Chicago my entire life. It is still a choice at the end of the day. You can't tell me you're for self-reliance and you for holding your own self accountable, but then say if they put Planned Parenthoods in black neighborhoods, you're going to blame Planned Parenthood. No, if you believe a person should be responsible for their own decisions, then you should hold them accountable for going into the Planned Parenthood, not Planned Parenthood for simply being there. I'm a Republican. Do you want me to get in the box? You are absolutely welcome. If you want, just send the invite. You are absolutely welcome. Like I said, folks, this is a free speech zone. No snowflakes in here anytime, all day, every day. No snowflakes. You know this. You see what the sign says. Come on in, drop your point, state your point. Let's see here. There's that playing Death Hood again. Okay, well, let's see what's going on for Maddie. I was in here. Let me see. Talk about what. Hang on, Maddie. Okay. Talk about what. What did it say? Talk about why folks care so much about others' options that cause no adverse effect to them. I don't know, other than their religion. Maddie, what's up?
Hi, I was wondering what your stance is on the whole situation before I start talking.
On Roe versus Wade?
Yes.
I believe a woman should have a choice. And the reason I say that is because I know all of the tentacles that will come out of denying her that choice. And I'm not just talking about moms with hangers and all of that. I'm talking about additional incarceration, children being born in poverty that we do not want to give entitlements to, women going to jail for murder, all of this, the black market, where you're going to have abortions being done on the black market. So you're going to have physicians going to jail for murder. I just think all of the tentacles that come with criminalizing anything from prohibition to the war on drugs. I don't want to entertain doing something like that again. But go ahead.
Okay, I can completely understand that. The reason that I personally support Roe v. Wade is because it's not found in the Constitution. And the Supreme Court, I don't believe the federal court should have any dealings when it comes to laws, because they're supposed to enforce legislation and look at the Supreme or look at the Constitution. So when we go through the Constitution, because it doesn't say anything about abortion, that's when we have to go back and look at the 10th Amendment. And with the 10th Amendment, that pretty much says give it back to the states and the people. And just because it's being overturned doesn't necessarily mean it will go away. Now, the thing is they're going to have the people vote on it, right? So in Texas, they had people vote on how they wanted it to be. So I feel like if you're in a more blue state, you'll be okay, versus red. Now, do I think that all abortions should go away? Absolutely not, because like I said, I am pro-life, but I also understand the circumstances that would happen if you were to just abolish it completely. And
Okay.
so at that point, I would say, maybe create like a heartbeat law like Texas does. Because when you look up the definition of abortion, it pretty much says you can have an abortion until 28 weeks. Now, a child is viable until 25 weeks, and that just doesn't sit right with me, if that makes any sense.
Well, the state of Oklahoma just passed a law that says 6 weeks. That's their max. 6 weeks currently.
Yeah, that's Texas's law also.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't like all of the stuff that's going to come out of it. Here, let me respond to you saying the states' rights thing, because I know I hear a lot of right wingers suggesting that when liberals start talking about they're going to take away LGBT rights next, or they're going to take away interracial marriage, or they're going to put us back in slavery, and a lot of the right wingers go, well, that's fear mongering. Well, based on the argument you guys are making that the Roe versus Wade never was an actual law, it's not in the Constitution. Some of the stuff that you guys are accusing liberals of fear mongering for also is not in the Constitution. You don't have a constitutionally protected right to say gay marriage. That's not constitutionally protected. You could so some of this stuff you actually can roll back based on the arguments that you guys are making to roll this one back. How many other things, interracial marriage, is that constitutionally protected? That you constitutionally have a right to marry somebody outside of your race? No, they can roll that back. So whether you think it's fear mongering or not, you have to admit, based on the arguments that you're presenting for this one, those are actually possible.
And I understand where you're coming from, and that's why I'm going to bring up the argument of it can be federally illegal, right? And states, it could be legal. So, like, if you look at when we bring back the gay marriages, not every state was allowed gay marriage. You weren't allowed to marry in that state, right? You would have to go to another state. And that's why we're going to look back at, just because it's federally illegal doesn't mean it's not illegal in the states. Or you can look at marijuana, right? In the federal government, it is illegal. But if you look at other states, that's whenever it is legal. So the stance on will this happen, will this not happen, is very, very contradictive, I guess, of, I don't know how to phrase that, honestly. But what I'm saying is,
let me go.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say. I was just going to say this in regards to this stuff. Folks are on the right are suggesting that what liberals are claiming is going to happen or could happen is fear mongering, and I'm just simply trying to make the point that based on how you're removing the Roe, how you're able to reverse Roe versus Wade, you can absolutely do those things in the same manner. Not saying will it happen? We don't know. But based on the way this is being utilized, it absolutely can happen. And make no mistake about it. When Trump was appointing those Supreme Court judges, Liberals were saying then that they were going to roll back Roe versus Wade, and the right was saying you guys are just fear mongering. So we've already been proven once that it's not always fear mongering. It absolutely can happen. You go back just a few months ago, and anybody who was suggesting that the right would roll back Roe versus Wade would have been accused of fear mongering. And now here we go. It's happening, and there's plenty of folks on the right that are supporting it. If they roll back the LGBT marriage rights and redefine marriage as only being between a man and a woman, most of the right would support that also. So I don't understand why people think that this is absolutely impossible.
Well, and I think the fear mongering part doesn't necessarily come towards the Roe v. Wade. I think it's because they think that atomic pregnancies will lead to imprisonment. But the issue with that is atomic pregnancies were legal. Like, you were able to abort the atomic pregnancies way before Roe v. Wade. The only reason it started to be considered abortion, just like miscarriages, those are considered a spontaneous abortion. The only reason those are considered abortions is because if you have to classify a certain amount of abortions and you have to have a certain amount of abortions to get funding. So I don't believe that atomic pregnancies or miscarriages are going to cause you to get imprisoned or get a fine. Honestly, I think that's the part of fear mongering that a lot of people on the right are like, that's not going to happen. And if it does, then I will assure you there's a lot of people on the right who are going to raise hell, because
Well,
ultimately that's not something you can control.
a lot of that is up to your doctor, though. If you may go to one doctor and that doctor may say you need to have an abortion to save your health, could be in, a fallopian tube pregnancy or something. You may need to have this abortion, otherwise your life may be in jeopardy. But you may go to another doctor that's, really Christian based and really pro life, and he may be like, listen, I believe I can save you and this baby, and just simply refuse to write you authorization to have an abortion. It's going to really take the decision out of the mother's hands and put it into the doctor's hands on that, because your doctor may say that despite what's going on, even if it's a breech birth or not, well, breech is too far along, but different types of pregnancies, your doctor may say, no, we don't really need to. We don't think your life is in danger as much as you might think, or as much as another doctor thinks. We think that we can actually save you and the baby, and we're not going to authorize you having an abortion. Real quick, Flossin Moeller said, I didn't know I was pregnant until I was almost 6 weeks old. So do I just drop my life and work and find a doctor? And yeah, based on this if this comes down the pike, yeah, you're going to have to. You find out you're pregnant right at 6 weeks, you got a very short time to make this happen. So yeah, you would have to drop everything you're doing. And if you live in a state like Louisiana somewhere, you're going to have to drive to New Mexico or Southern Illinois to get it done anyway. So yeah, you better hurry up and grab some bags and leave the house. Go ahead, Maddie.
But that's the thing, though, right? Is I always preach that your local elections are very important. You need to focus on the local elections, especially during midterms, because, federally, if you don't vote, right? If you just don't vote that year, federally, it's whatever. But your local elections is what really matters. And you really need to focus on your locals. Because in Florida, right, I believe it's 15 weeks. In Texas, it's 6 weeks. In Oklahoma, it's none, if that makes any sense. So if it does get overturned and the topic on the table is, are we going to keep it or are we not? I completely urge you to go out, even if you are for pro-choice or you're for pro-life. Everybody's vote matters, especially when it comes to your local. And I'm not going to sit there and say, you're pro-choice, I don't like you. As long as you go out and you vote, I will have so much more respect for you, because you really can't complain about something that you didn't vote for. So say like, you're old enough to vote, you are legally able to vote, and you have your voter's registration, but the abortion comes up on the topic and you don't vote, right? And then you were pro-choice and now you're upset that it's illegal. That's when you kind of have to look back and you're like, well, I didn't vote, that's my fault. And I just
I agree with
personally urge
you.
y'all to get
I
out there.
agree. The liberal side in me, and I know Republicans, conservatives, my favorite audience members would never ever agree with this, but I believe just like signing up for the Selective Service, you should be required to participate in at least in the presidential election and the midterms. Now, you don't have to vote for anybody. You can just simply respond with present, but you should have to answer for every election in regards to the midterms and the president election. I believe they should have that as a law, just like they do when you turn 18. You got to be involved in the selective service. You don't have to vote for any of these candidates, but you do have to respond and say that you're present. You can write in somebody. You can say that I don't really like either one of these dudes or whatever, but you should have to respond to every election.
Yeah, because they're not just going to put it out and be like, well, this is illegal. They're going to have you vote on it because ultimately it's up to the people of that state. Just like in Texas, whenever that started a big ordeal with all the other 49 states, and everybody was like, well, the people of Texas didn't have a voice. We had a voice. They campaigned for about 6 months on this, and then we all voted, and then it came out. So ultimately, you have to get out. You have to use your voice, right? And it's just like, if a liberal comes up to me and they were old enough to vote and they were able to vote, and then they're going to complain about, when Trump was in office. I wasn't old enough to vote, but what I'm going to say is, if you were and you go up to somebody and you complain about Trump being in office but you didn't vote, that's kind of a, well, maybe you should have gotten out, maybe your vote would have mattered,
Yeah,
kind of situation. And that's kind of where I stand, because I
I
don't
agree
feel,
with that.
I have more respect for
Go ahead.
people who do vote versus don't.
Well, you definitely get an argument from me. It looks like a MAGA guy put in the comments that most Republicans already show up to the polls and vote. They don't need to be forced to. And that's true. I do believe there is far more turnout on the right side of the aisle than the left, which is why I said when I made my statement that the Republicans would never agree with compulsory voting, because they know if everybody had to vote, it would be a high voter turnout is not good for Republicans. It's never good for Republicans, which is why I'm suggesting that this Roe versus Wade rollback is not going to be good for Republicans, because the midterms, unlike the presidential election, the midterms usually gets a far less participation. And certainly with Joe Biden doing the way he's doing right now with the economy and his economic numbers, his poll numbers are all looking horrible right now. This is something that is going to bring liberals to the polls that probably would not have voted at all, particularly the younger ones, the ones that are fertile, the ones that are in their 30s and 20s and 30s that probably weren't even going to vote in the midterms. This is going to bring out a lot of liberals that were not going to be there. So higher voter turnout is not good for Republicans. But go ahead.
And I think that's kind of why it got leaked. Is because it's more as a distractionary kind of thing. Because if you look at it, right, there's a lot of stuff that happened whenever it got leaked.
Yep.
And a lot of people aren't talking about it. Like Epstein's wife, or somebody Epstein's involved with, she just got 10 years knocked off her sentence. Nobody talked about that, right?
Wow.
And so then we're going to look back and we're going to notice, even people in the comments, whenever you talk about Roe v. Wade, they're like, if you want to change, go vote blue. And I feel like this is the complete intention of it, because Joe Biden's rates are so low and Kamala's rates are so low that they're going to want more Democrats. And ultimately that kind of worries me, because we have a Democrat running in my state that's not, like, even people on the left are like, that's not a good choice. But ultimately, I feel like that's what's going to end up happening, because people are going to be like, we need more.
Well, there are plenty of people on the right that are suggesting that Trump ain't the best choice either, but that happens. But look, I want to go ahead and move it on. I'll let you wrap it up. Somebody else, I got another one coming in, but go ahead.
So I would just like to say thank you for having me on here. My opinion hasn't changed, but I did like having a conversation about it. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the goal, is for us to have a conversation. Some of these issues we discuss on this program, I understand it. Folks are cemented in their, for instance, the Second Amendment. You're not going to change anybody's mind on having the right to protect themselves. So I get it, but hey, come on back through anytime.
Okay.
I do appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
You
Absolutely.
too.
All right. Oh, this individual, Fatty Alum, talking baby. Okay, that came from Ticket.
Hello.
Get up. Hey, what's up?
Hello.
What's on your mind today? Fatty.
Hey.
Hey, what's up? What's going on?
So, first of all, I say that we should first of all have a national IQ test for everyone, and then based off of that, we allow who should vote or not. Are you with me?
No. So you're suggesting that if a person is not intelligent, they should not be allowed to vote?
I say under 90. 80 or
So let
90.
me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. If I fail the intelligence test that you give me, the national IQ test, should
Yeah.
I still have to pay taxes?
Yeah, because you're a citizen.
Okay, but so what you're essentially suggesting then would be taxation without representation, because I can be forced to pay taxes, but because I can't vote, I have no representation. I just have to pay to a government that really does not even have to take care or even look at me at all because hell, I'm not voting for them.
Well, uh, get smarter after every 4 years.
Yeah,
You
but
should
what
not
happens
have.
for the 4 years that I'm what happens for the 4 years that I was not allowed to vote and had to pay taxes? That's taxation without representation.
I mean, it's not like everyone votes, and it's not like you voting is gonna change everything. I mean, they buy votes anyways. I mean, Biden bought votes. We all know that.
None of that changes what I just said. Taxation without representation. You can spin it and say, well, it's not
No,
like it's
no,
going
but
to
you can
matter, or
change
but
you can
it's
vote the state.
taxation. If I have to pay taxes, I should be able to vote. Period. If you don't want my vote,
Not
you
the
don't want my
president.
tax money.
No, not the president. Okay, so there should be.
I don't care what it is. I
Okay, so
don't
look.
because
So
there's
I
tax.
say
There are hang on, hold on. There are county taxes. There are city tax. I don't. It don't have to be president. They're all collecting tax money from me. If I cannot vote in those elections, I should not have to pay taxes.
okay, so an intelligent vote should be one vote. If you're below the intelligent level, your vote counts as 25% of the actual vote.
Do I
So
only
you
pay 25% in taxes? Do I get a
no, it's
far,
it's the
far less
same.
tax? Then it's not fair then. It's still taxation without representation.
But it doesn't need to be fair. The US isn't fair anyways.
Okay, well, look, let's just be clear. What you're suggesting, they have tried that, and that is the way they used to prevent African Americans from voting. But fortunately, they don't do that anymore, and that is covered by an amendment. So it's not a
But that
Supreme
is
Court
racism.
judicial.
That's not intelligence. That's racism.
No, well, I can ask you. I can give you a test. Let's say you're a white guy. I don't see your picture, but let's say you're a white guy. I can
Yeah,
start asking you questions, and you want to vote, and you live in Atlanta, a town that's predominantly black. So I give you an
good.
IQ test. My IQ test starts asking you questions like, well, what was the name of the actress that played Thelma on Good Times? I can
No, but
ask
that's
you
not IQ.
questions. I can ask you questions that can exclude your race. That's not hard to do that.
No, no, I'm talking like, oh well, what's the fourth I don't know, what's 4 times 20? And you have 2 seconds to answer. Like a question like that, that's an IQ test.
I'm looking at Spade and Puppy said, where does Handsome find these guys? I give people a chance to speak. Obviously I'm not agreeing with you, Fatty, here, but I do believe you have the
That's
right to
fine.
state your opinion. But no, I'm not a fan of IQ tests simply because you may have a smart guy that falls and hits his head. And now all of a sudden, because he can't take an IQ test, Joe Biden is a good example. You think Joe Biden has dementia? Well, now you pretty much excluded him from voting for the rest of his life. I'm
Uh,
just not a fan of it. I'm not a
okay, I
fan
have
of it.
another one though. I have another. So that was just an idea. That was like a thing I
It's a
had.
bad
So
idea. It's a
no,
bad
I asked my
idea.
friends. They think it's good. But anyways, first of all,
Okay.
do you believe that Biden is actually the president, or do you believe he's like a decoy? Because I
I
believe
thought
Obama is the president. Obama is
I
actually controlling.
thought I
Obama's
thought your
controlling.
I thought your I thought your previous topic was wild, and you just went and just said, "Hold my beer." Um, no, President Biden is the president. I'm not going to buy it.
But do
Listen,
you
every
actually
president,
who
yeah,
voted for
actually
Biden?
president. I will tell you this: if President Biden is not the president, why the hell is Trump blaming him for everything? Why not blame the guy that's
Because
actually doing it?
he doesn't know. No one knows. He's the decoy,
No.
right? Because Obama can't go for 12 years. So we obviously told Biden, "Hey, become the president. I'll buy you votes." So they bought votes, and then they whatever Biden says, it's actually Obama. So like Obama's in the office right now and all of that stuff, you know?
Do you realize what you just said? I asked you if Biden is not the one in control, why does Trump keep blaming him for everything? And your response was he doesn't know. Then you followed up by making it clear that you know. How is it that you know all of this and the former president doesn't?
I watch Joe Rogan.
Okay, look, man, I'm gonna move the program on, man. You going crazy?
No. Hey, you just don't want people to know the truth.
Okay.
Come
I
on,
don't
you
think.
gotta. No. I've been waiting patiently to open up the eyes of the people. You can't
Give me
just kick
another
me
truth.
off.
Okay, give me another
Okay,
truth.
did you see the podcast 3 days ago? Do you even watch Joe Rogan?
No, I don't watch Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is pretty good. I like Joe, but I don't watch him as much. But give
Okay,
me
so
another
three
one of
days
your truths.
so 3 days ago, he had an interview, a podcast, where he exposes the Do you know what the LBG community is?
Lesbian, gay, and bisexual community. What about it?
Something like the community, yeah, the gay community. So basically, they have a secret leader that's getting funds, money from donations, and he's manipulating kids to become gay to stop overpopulating the country because they are losing resources. So they want to buy ads, like John Lewis. They had an ad for like makeup for kids.
Okay,
They're
who
trying to
is
make
this?
people
Who is the
gay.
secret leader? Give me the name of this secret leader.
I I don't know. We don't know, but there's a leader. We know that because he's
How,
getting
if you
funds from
don't know his
Biden.
name, how can you be sure he exists?
Because the gay, no, like if you ask any homo, do you know like a friend that's like homo? Because they know, they get a mail.
Okay, second person. Let me make it clear to you folks watching. I say this all day, every day. This is a no snowflake zone. Free speech is here. But when you get so far off the deep edge that I start being worried that TikTok's going to censor the whole fucking channel, I got to take you down. He's using the HOMO word, for instance. When you start going in that far, I really hate cutting anybody. And he's the second person after doing this for a few months that I've had to cut. But I don't think he was really. I don't even think he was entertaining at that point. I mean, he just went way out in left field. Minutes to talk, but wow, I don't even know what else to say about that. That was
Hey, how's it
okay.
going?
Critical approach or whatever. Okay, go ahead, man. Take me in a
Hey, can you hear
different
me all
direction.
right?
Yeah, I hear you. Please come with the sensible. Come with the sensible. What's up?
Hell yeah. I'm curious about your opinion on reparations and how we can approach that, or if we should even approach that at all.
Wow. And that's a pretty good one. As far as reparations are concerned, I will say that whether it's the Japanese that was interned during World War II, whether it was the Native Americans that lost a lot of land, or even the Caucasian slave owners that had their slaves taken from them by force by the federal government, we have given reparations to all of those groups. So
True.
I will say that it can't. I mean, because when slave owners were when their slaves were taken from them against their will, the government actually gave reparations to slave owners. So because
True.
I was making money off it. You took these people from me. You've put me in poverty now. I had free labor. So they got reparations. As far as how to approach it, I'm not suggesting that we hand it out. I don't know what you can do this far down the line, but I will say this: if I was a politician and I was going to try to impose reparations in a fair manner, I would make it as a hand up, not a handout. And what I mean by that is there were things that were done to African Americans to prevent them from being successful. Education, businesses, and property. Those are things that were very difficult for African Americans to successfully own. So I would probably present some form of a tax cut or tax forgiveness for African Americans that wanted to open up a business, for instance, or African. Now, some of this has been done in some liberal areas, like education, for instance. You can get a degree, and there's all kinds of grants that allow that. Because all of these things, as opposed to just giving somebody money to go out and buy some rims or a pair of Jordans, these are things that actually help that person and benefit the economy as a whole. So if you want to open up a business, maybe we'll forgive the permit costs or maybe the taxes you pay on your business for a few years to give you a leg up, whereas we're making up for the time when you could not own a business and all of the white people could. So I think you can give reparations in that area. Same thing with education, some kind of student loan forgiveness. I know that's very unpopular right now, but if you want to get an education, because we didn't allow your kind to even go to a lot of schools, we'll allow you to go to schools and we'll have you pay us a lesser percentage of education. So I think it should be, if it was going to be done, it would be done in those areas: property, business ownership, and education. But in 2022, I think it would be so unpopular. I can't imagine being able to implement it without a ridiculous amount of division.
That's fair. I guess part of the implementation question that I have is how would we successfully implement it? Because normally in the past, it's been difficult to do. Whenever we tried to do things with Native Americans, there was this blood quantum element where you had to be specific when it comes to what percentage of your heritage was Native American. And it makes a bit of a difficult process to figuring out how we actually give people these reparations. So if we do it based on race, which is what I'm currently cautious towards, I am a fan of reparations. But based on race is what I'm cautious towards. If we do it based on race, how do we do it in a way that's fair? And how do we do it in a way that actually ensures that people aren't manipulating the system because they have like a great uncle who happens to be black?
Well, unfortunately, anytime you do something, this is also for those folks who think the 2020 election was not held properly. Anytime you do something where there's millions of people involved, there's going to be people who manipulate the system. There's just no way to avoid that. And I use this argument when they talk about the election because my point is, if you think every right winger that voted in 2020 did not cheat, you're just bullshitting yourself. There was probably some improprieties on both sides of the aisle. It's just too many people participating, and it's the same thing in this case where you're talking about what percentage and all of that. They could, I suppose, sit down and really hash that out, but there are a lot of folks like myself that, both of my sides can be, my mom's side grew up in Memphis and my dad's side I can trace back to Mississippi. So I'm 100% descendant of that shit. And if you're under 70, probably under 70 years of age, there's a whole lot of folks that are 100% descendants of it. But you want to start going down to the people that are only 10, 15, 20%. That's a different argument. I would say at least 25%. If you can show that you got at least 25% of slave descendantry, whatever the word would be. If you're at least 25%, I would say you would qualify for something. But like in my case, like I said, it's 100%. So it could be done, but the problem is anytime you try to do something like this, specifically for the African American community, there's going to be hell to pay. There has historically always been that way. If you got a certain group of people, and I'm not just saying whites, I'm just saying a certain percentage of people that do not want their tax money going to help out African Americans. So you would have a lot of division with it. I don't know if you could make it happen successfully at this day and age. I can't imagine it.
I agree, which is why, and especially, and you can already see in the comments that people are posting contesting ideas, 50%, 25%, whatever percent. And I think this degree of percentage is both problematically reductive and basically impossible to approach properly. It means that people who fall within like 0.01 percentage of that line, they might be coded as more black, they might have like darker skin, but because they have that 0.01% difference, they're excluded from these benefits. And that's going to make a lot of people frustrated, and especially people on the right.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think the vast majority of folks that are walking around that are dark skinned is probably over 25%. I don't think there's a whole lot of 1%ers walking. I mean, there are people out there like that, what you're talking about. They do exist. But I think there's so many folks out there that are 25% or greater that I don't think that crowd even comes close to representing even 30% of the folks who will be filing claims. The vast majority of folks is probably going to be closer to myself, like folks like me. And there's a lot of biracial children out there, like Obama, who's 50%. There's a whole bunch of those. I just don't think the 10% types, it's just not as many of them out there, because
that's,
it is. Go ahead.
That's not what I meant. I'm sorry. I meant that like people who line, right? So people who are 25% and up in terms of their heritage, they would get those benefits, but people who are 24.9% would be excluded from that. And that, and that's kind of what I'm talking about is that arbitrary line. Are we going to make people like, well, do we round it? To what degree do we round it? And no matter what, that like immediate percentage is going to be like, hey, this isn't fair. I'm losing out on all these benefits because I'm just so close to the line, yet I can't exactly meet it. Which is going to be frustrating. And as I said, anyways, I think right-leaning people are going to be opposed to it in general. My idea
You're going
Well,
in and
is it
out.
these reparations should not be based? Oh, sorry. Can
Well,
you hear me all right?
yeah, you win it. But I would just say this: no matter what you do, there's always going to be people that are going to say it's not fair. Just like showing up in the state of Oklahoma at 7 weeks pregnant and saying you want an abortion. Well, you missed it by just 1 week. There are always going to be people that think something is unfair. There's no way you're going to implement any kind of legislation that covers millions of people without some folks thinking it's not fair.
That's fair. But I would say that if we can find another solution that tries and meets that I personally think that we should have reparations based on districts or zip codes. So we could look at like zip codes or districts where there is a high degree. We can make that line arbitrary because it does not infect individuals. Individuals could always move to those districts, but we find districts with like a high degree of black or black identifying individuals. And we work on infrastructural reparations. So we work on building up the schools in the community, work on building up the roads, all the infrastructure that allows businesses to thrive. We include things like zones where there are discounts for setting up businesses, tax credits for setting up businesses, things like that that
Your
they
audio's
didn't
going.
have
Yeah,
previously.
okay. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna have you go ahead and I'll let you get the last word and go ahead and wrap it up because your audio's going in and out. There's big gaps in your audio. So, but go ahead.
Oh, that's fair. It's kind
Yeah.
of a bummer. I'm not sure why that's happening. But no, I just think that if we do reparations exactly along racial lines, it's going to cause too many problems. And we should instead do reparations based on districts, so that there's not this blood quantum issue, but instead we can focus on actually building up infrastructure that makes it much better for certain people to thrive. And I think that infrastructure package should be significant, military budget and beyond level, at least in my personal opinion, because I think that would help some of the inequities in the U.S.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, hey, come on back to anytime. I don't think that's gonna happen. Say before I drop them out, I don't think that'll ever happen. There just never has been any tolerance to hell. There was not even a big issue in regards to even apologizing to African Americans for what happened, much less try to give them some money and make up for it. Keep in mind, we just made it a holiday to honor the emancipation of slaves this year. Most Americans do not even know when slavery ended. In my opinion, you guys can tell me where to stuff it all you want. I'm fine with that. No snowflakes here. I don't think we ever really wanted to end what was happening. I mean, not only did we have a civil war that was deeply based in ending slavery, it clearly continued happening long after they officially ended it. So, yeah, I don't think the idea of actually giving African Americans something of value for what happened back then, I just don't think this country has any stomach to do that. Because, like I said, they didn't even give them a holiday to say you're free now. I mean, most of us who went to school in the 70s and 80s, we don't even know the official day in which slavery ended. So it's pretty clear based on what has taken place, they never even wanted to do it. So following that up with reparations, hey, if it goes down, I'm all for it. But I would not hold my breath on that one at all. Irish got off the ship and was made to go to war or pay not to. That came from Mark Henson 109. Well, the difference between the Irish, and I hear this all the time. Anytime, and better yet, I will say this: I don't believe everything I hear about the quote unquote Irish slaves, mainly because the Irish don't even talk about it. So once again, if you're talking about slavery and freedom and all of that, the Irish would be saying something about that. Who are some of the Irish slave heroes? Did any of the Irish ever try to escape? So you don't hear the Irish talking about it. So that to me tells you a lot because they sure as hell know how to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, but they don't talk about being slaves at all. We just supposed to believe that they were mistreated that badly, and all unanimously chose to keep quiet about it. Something just doesn't sit right with me about that. Also, I will say, when it comes to the Irish, they were not slaves from birth to death. Whereas with African Americans, not only were they slaves at birth, also they could send somebody into your cabin or out in the field and rape you at any given time to make new slaves. So you gotta also take in consideration that most of the females were rape victims. That's how they created new ones. Kind of like if you have a pit bull and you want to breed and make other pit bulls, that dog doesn't get a say so in you breeding. You bring another dog in and you just go for it. Your goal is to make more dogs and make more money. You don't care if the female dog is really okay with it or not. You're just trying to make more dogs. And that's kind of happened. So when it comes to the Irish, you don't hear them talking about all of that kind of stuff. You just don't. Not to mention, there's all sorts of laws that some of them are even still on the books today of how to handle African Americans that have escaped and things you could do. You don't hear that kind of stuff about the Irish. It's just, there's something missing there. I'm not saying the Irish slaves was not a real thing, but when you look at our history, the historical context, the footprint of what happened with African Americans is all over our laws. It's all over the place. The footprint of Irish slavery it's non-existent to some degree. It's much, much smaller. Let's see. And here's another strange thing. Why is it that almost every time you hear about the Irish slaves, it is in response to a conversation about the African American slaves? You don't just have a conversation that is about the Irish slaves and just simply about that. If you're talking about Irish slaves, chances are somebody was just talking about African American slaves before that. So it almost comes across as a counter argument. I don't know why, but I'm just saying. False equivalence says false floss and molars. When my family immigrated and settled my hometown, it was Mexico's. Well, we did take a lot of their property. Segregation, people Google it. Servants is temporary servitude, and chattel slaves is permanent slave. That's one I was going to say. Tiana Wilson, is that you didn't have an Irish that was 6 months old and was a slave already. You were a slave as an African American from birth, from day one. The minute you came out of the womb, you was already somebody's property. They were already writing up deeds and they owned you. Let's see here. You don't know history well. Hey, what does that say? Says he, and if you don't think I know history well, feel free to come on the program, school me what I don't know, or type it in the comments. If you're not the one who want to come on and send an invitation and talk live, like I said, folks, it's no snowflakes. We don't run from your comments. If you want to tell me, to get a new one or where to shove it, come on in. We will talk about it. But as far as I'm concerned, the Irish slaves versus the African American slaves are just the history of this country, the laws and things like that shows that undoubtedly that the African American slaves are real, and the Irish stuff it's a lot more hazy. It's just a lot more hazy. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm saying that knowing that they actually did try to hide a hell of a lot of stuff that they did to African Americans, and you still know about a lot of it. Let's see here. Immigrants still treated better 400 years. Wait a minute. This is from Rodney Burns. Immigrants still treated better. 400 years are over. It's our time to win again. Win in what way? Ireland has an entire article on their government website stating that. Stating what in be heating? What are they stating on their website? It's not comparable. Stop, people. Ashley the Lion is no, it's not. I don't think it is. And the reason I say is because you only hear about the Irish slaves as a response to a conversation about the African American slaves. I mean, we've all went to school. Did you have any chapters on Irish slavery? I mean, do you know any of them? If they were slaves, surely some of them tried to escape. Surely some of them got mistreated. Do you know any famous Irish slaves? Any of them at all? So yeah, something is wrong there. I'm just going to say that something is off about that. Indenture service, whatever they were. I'm just simply saying, if they were slaves, certainly some of them would be trying to escape, causing all kinds. I mean, there were African Americans that escaped. There was one guy that escaped and went to neighboring plantations and killed every white person he could find. Was it Christmas Adams? What was the guy's name? I can't think of his name, but you can Google him and easily find out who he is. Obviously, you know about Harriet Tubman and you know about Frederick Douglass, former slaves and things like that. Give me an Irish slave. Like, name any of them. Any of them. Something's wrong when you cannot name virtually anyone from a whole group of people that were supposedly slaves. You said, Nat Turner. That's what that was. Joe O'Biden. Okay, user guy. A servant is not the same as a slave. No, it's not. No, it absolutely is not. The Confederate flag is not racist. Colonizer 5. Here's another one of my followers that has a name, Colonizer, and he's suggesting that the Confederate flag is not racist. No, a garment, a flag itself, no, it's not racist. The flag itself is just a garment. But had the Confederates won that war, there's no doubt that they had nothing positive in store for people that looked like me. And that can easily be viewable by looking at how they behaved even after losing a war. After losing the Civil War, for a small period of time, Abraham Lincoln left federal soldiers in the South to protect the rights of African Americans. And during that short time, we started blossoming. Bank accounts, you actually had African Americans becoming politicians and all of that. Literally the minute Abraham Lincoln retracted those federal soldiers from the South, they went right back to the way they were. It was like when we left Afghanistan, the Taliban has went right back to doing what they're doing. That's exactly what happened in the South. So you can only assume what would have happened if they had won the war. That's just a historical fact. That has nothing else to do with that. And Confederates were Democrats. That is absolutely true. It wasn't a racist movement. They wanted states' rights. Lincoln allowed slavery in the North. Okay, Colonizer 5, you can say what they wanted in the South was not about slavery, it's about states' rights. But at the end of the day, it would have resulted in me remaining a slave. That's all I'm saying. Call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day, had they won the war, had they maintained their states' rights, part of their states' rights would have been to keep me in bondage. You can rephrase it any kind of way you want, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to be a slave. Kennedy and Johnson, what does it say? Kennedy and Johnson were also Democrats. Yeah, and they're credited for the Civil Rights Act. We don't went into a different conversation with this, though. Sure, Confederates started as Democrats, but the parties have flipped since then. That came from James. A lot of folks try to deny that, but yeah, there absolutely was a party switch. But I know a lot of this audience, my MAGA folks, a lot of you guys don't believe the switch ever took place. You just believe African Americans in particular stopped voting against the racist Democrats and started voting for them because they gave them food stamps. There's a lot of folks that simplify it that much. You ask them, well, if the Democrats were the party of slavery and they're still slaves, why do African Americans still vote? Why do African Americans overwhelmingly vote Democrat? Well, because they give you free shit, and and they actually believe that, and that makes sense to them. Says no snowflakes, but I see a lot of upset babies in here. Nashy 316, you don't see it from your host. You don't see it from your host. I entertain any and all comments, including the one you just typed in. Unapologetically black man, 205. The Constitution just started protecting black people, barely. Yeah, there's no denying that. I mean, obviously, the Civil Rights Act, what is that? What amendment is that? 14th, or I don't know whatever the hell it is. But yeah, I mean, that's just in 1964. So you got to assume the country became a nation in 1776. So 200 years of the first 200 years of the country, we had no civil rights. So yeah, in regards to your comment stating that they just started protecting black people, yeah, there's no denying that. It's that Simone, actually. I don't know what the guy was, but he escaped and he went on they ended up hanging the guy. But yeah, he escaped from slavery and he just went on he just became a mass murderer. Anything that was light skinned, he killed it. And they finally caught up with him and hung him, but he was on a rampage. He was angry. You know, not to go way off topic, but I found myself thinking that you see some of these guys who spent years in prison. You look at I follow the Innocence Project, and it is no shortage of African Americans, some white people too. It's not just all blacks, some Hispanics, but it's mostly black people. They spend years in prison for a crime they didn't commit. And they get released and they're fucking happy and I don't hold no anger to the system and I'm just glad God let. And I look at these folks and I think sometimes I would probably be disgruntled for the rest of my life. If I could show, after 20 years of pleading this, I finally got in touch with an Innocence Project lawyer or somebody like that has been able to prove to the courts that a detective, or in some cases, an entire city prosecutor deliberately lied to have me locked up for the rest of my life. I cannot imagine being able to be the type that would turn the other cheek on that. I could certainly see myself turning into somebody really, really dark after something like that happening to me. But anyway, I just thought of that when you talked about, we talked about that topic there. But it says, we're still making laws to make white people civil. What do you mean by that? What kind of law is being passed to make white people civil? I don't get that. All cops are hey Cam, oh my god. And I don't believe that, by the way. I don't believe all cops are bad. I support police. There's plenty of good cops. It's the culture, the lack of training, I believe, the defense of egos, making very little effort to de-escalate situations. I think that if they showed up to a lot of situations and de-escalating the situation was on their mind, shit wouldn't happen. Show up to a situation and you're not trying to defend your ego, shit wouldn't happen. We all know that if you cuss at a cop, shit's going to get worse, not better. Even though cussing at a cop in most cases is a First Amendment right, you have the right to free speech. We all know that if you do that, the cop in most cases is actually going to escalate the situation, not de-escalate the situation. And what they should do is, as long as he's not violating the law, let him cuss, write his ticket, and let him go. And they don't do that. They start trying to find additional things to get you on. You fuck around and cuss at a cop, it could be a missing license plate. Before you know it, they're towing your whole damn car because you ran your mouth. And that, yeah, your job is not to defend your ego or to demand respect. Your job is to make sure they're abiding by the law. If they're not breaking the law, leave them alone. Leave them alone. And a lot of cops don't follow that. And it turns a lot of situations into a mess. It becomes an issue of where the citizen should have been smart enough not to provoke the cop. Not the cop should have had enough constitutional training to know no crime was being committed. It's the citizen that should have known. Anthony Johnson, William Ellison, both from the South, do they owe monies too? I don't know who those people are. Anthony Johnson and William Ellison. Who are you talking about? Fit for duty evaluations are garbage, says Malcito. Yikes. I'm a good officer. Cowboy Longhorns, appreciate your service, man. We need folks like you. I make it clear. I think defunding the police is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard of. But we do need trained police. Just like if I'm in the hood, I'm not a fan of folks who see crimes and don't say anything. I mean, even a 10-year-old knows where most drug houses are on the block. And that's one of the problems why you have such rampant crime in the hood, is because folks just allow it to happen. They don't say anything. Well, that also applies to police. Even good cops know bad cops. And a lot of good cops don't say anything. You know that. You know the way he treated that guy was wrong. Or you know he slammed him on the car a bit harder than he had to. Or you know he didn't have the right to stomp on his hand. Stuff like that. And they don't say anything. So by the time we do catch this guy, after he don't kill somebody, you look on his record and you see that dozens of people have been complaining about this guy. And in every case, the other police that were at the scene didn't say anything about it happening. You look at the George Floyd case, or you look at the Rodney King case. Both of those cases, there were plenty of other cops standing by and watching. What's on their police reports? Nothing bad happened from the cops, even though they're sitting there looking at it. So that's where I say that we need to have, it's the thin blue line stuff. That is literally the exact same thing as no snitching in the hood. You're never going to fix problems like that when folks are just watching it happen and saying nothing about it. The subway killer, that guy's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. They're charging him with terrorism, I believe. Google Anthony Johnson and William Ellison, both from the South, pre-Civil War. I don't have time to do it now, but I would like to do it. In fact, I really would like to do it. Let me see if I can sneak one of them in here. Who you said? Anthony Johnson? I'm just real curious to see who the hell that is, since you're talking shit. Anthony Johnson. Oh, he's coming up there. He was a boxer, so I don't see any Anthony Johnson that dates back pre-Civil War. What did he do? Who was Anthony Johnson in history? This guy, born in the 1600s, a black Angolian known for achieving wealth in the early 17th century colony of Virginia. He was one of the first African-American property owners recognized by the Virginia courts. Okay, all right. So you're pointing out that the African-American did prosper back during the days of slavery. Okay, fair enough. And I've heard of a few others, like I said, but oftentimes it literally always took for them to have somebody white that was on their side. Maybe they did business with a white person or something like that, because they would have known at any given time they can take all this shit from you. So usually it's somebody white that's on their side or working with them to make that happen. And William Ellison is the other guy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that, though. And I believe he was a slave owner as well, says that one dyke. Yeah, were African Americans that owned slaves. No denying that, but the vast majority of that we know was not. Just like there were African Americans, or there were Africans, period. There were Africans that sold blacks into slavery. In the case of folks going over to Africa and getting slaves, I think that was an issue of, you can either sell this guy to us or we can take him from you and take your ass with him. So I don't think they had, over in that continent, I don't think they had a whole lot of choice. But regardless of what happened, they did sell them. But I always say this: if you go over to Cambodia or Vietnam or Thailand somewhere, and some woman sells you her underage daughter, you don't get to use that as an excuse for what your crazy ass did. Just because somebody sold this person to you, you knew what you were doing was wrong. And I'll leave it just like that. You don't get to blame that person in Africa. You don't brought her. And here's the other issue too. You go to Africa and you buy one guy. You bring him over here and you keep breeding and making more guys off of him, enslaving all of those down. You essentially enslave the family chain or the family tree. You only purchased one guy from him. You took them to the New World and enslaved the entire family tree. So it's not really the same there. And the vast majority of white citizens did not own slaves. That's 100% true, Robert Miller. I say that all the time, is that I believe only 1% of Caucasians own slaves. But just like Martin Luther King used to say, all you need is for good men to stand by and do nothing. And for the most part, American society didn't have, at least down in the South in particular, but even in the North, they didn't have any problem with what was going on. And then in the South, they actually went to war to fight to keep it going that way, even though they didn't own slaves. It is what it is. Can y'all give me up to 20,000 before we get up out of here? 20,000 likes. I could appreciate that. It was greed that caused racism. Yeah, it was money. It was a money ploy. Racism has always been about controlling money. If I can go and apply for a job as, say, a cop or a fireman, and I know that none of the white people in that town can apply and get the same job that I can, that's a benefit to me. You can call it privilege or whatever the hell you want to, but I know that the only people they're going to hire. So if I go and apply for a job as a fireman, and when I'm coming out of the interview room, I see a white guy going in, I know he's no competition. They don't hire those guys. They don't even, there's no chance I know I'm going to get the job if it comes down to me and him. There's no competition. So, yeah, there's definitely some benefit to it. Absolutely. And it's obviously some financial benefit to that. But it's just the black man that suffers for it. No, this shit it causes a lot of problems. Tyler Durden there. The Democrats have always tried to keep blacks enslaved. Justin Hartzell, or whatever the case may be. Go tell that to Obama. They elected him as president. Go tell that to Kamala Harris. You think they're trying to keep her enslaved? You think Kamala Harris looks like a slave to you? What about Ketanji Brown in the Supreme Court? She looks enslaved to you? No. That doesn't work. It certainly does if you go back 1960 and before. But in modern times, the argument that the Democratic Party is trying to keep blacks enslaved, it doesn't hold water. At least not to me. Kamala heals up Harris. Republicans are jumping ship. I don't believe that, 420 warrior. Republicans are not jumping ship. They're expected to do well in the midterms. This Roe V Wade thing is not going to help them out, but they're expected to do well in the midterms. Much of the Confederate South was about states' rights, not slavery. Robert Miller, somebody else said that a few minutes ago, and I'll just tell you this. It doesn't matter what the South was fighting for. Had they won, I would have been a slave. Period. That's it. I don't need to know what their actual fight was for. I know how it would end for me. And I know that even because of what happened in the South after they lost the war, they still continued doing it. Up to and including throughout the Martin Luther King era. So it's pretty clear that the South had nothing positive in store for African Americans. So it doesn't matter what they were fighting for. It is in my best interest that they lost. Let's see here. No one wanted equality. They wanted supremacy. See, pre-1991, it does appear to be that way, particularly with the South. Joe Biden is a joke. Well, he's in the White House laughing at you right now. Apparently, he thinks what you just said is funny. I'd say we have more of a class issue than a race issue, and it's easy to keep that line blurred. Wayne Woodle, 2022. There you could see more of the class issue as opposed to a race. Yeah, now, but most of America's issue was more of a race issue, because even if you were white and you were dirt poor, you still could one day run for office, or there was so many things that you could do that African Americans, even born in a decent family situation, could not do. So if it's class based, that's something that is far more recent than our history says. Name an amendment that doesn't state white people can't discriminate. I believe it's the Civil Rights Amendment. You can't discriminate based on class, disability, gender. What is it, 14? There is an amendment that protects that says you said name an amendment that doesn't state white people can't discriminate. Yeah, that amendment, the Civil Rights Act is that amendment. The Civil Rights Act, when it was passed, prevented you from being discriminated. And I think they've recently added LGBT or something like that. Can we talk about the fraud election? CMB Corrado, can we talk about some evidence? And I haven't seen 2,000 Mules yet. I tried to watch it last night. Where the hell? Can somebody tell me in the audience, where can you find 2,000 Mules? I've been looking for that. Where can you find that? I'm even willing to pay for it. Where can you find it online where you can watch the entire movie without somebody letting you watch 5 minutes of it on YouTube and then telling you click on some kind of link that you don't know if it's safe or not? Where can you find 2,000 Mules online that you can stream? I've been looking for that. Racism grew when Obama was in power. Jerry Lawson, 509. Grew based on what? Are you suggesting it grew against the blacks or grew against the white? Grew in what way? Red wave is coming, says Tyler Durden, 377. There are folks who are predicting that. Laugh out loud. Dems have always been the same. Really? So they're still the same Confederate flag supporting party they were back in the 1800s? Is that what you're saying? Joe Biden is a joke. I think Roe v. Wade going to push Republicans to come out even more. I don't think so, Trash Can. I think it's going to be the other way around. I believe as somebody said in the comments before, Republicans already show up to the polls. It's Democrats that don't normally show up. So even if Republicans increase their turnout, there is a lot more room for Democrats to do that. So I don't think so, but we'll see. We'll see. The black community fight is not against the white community, it's against the government. I can kind of buy that. I can agree with that, Cowboy Longhorns. I think that mass incarceration and stuff, that's not coming from average white folks. I think the laws that allow the average white person to be racist have been, for the most part, neutralized. There's a few Karens and things like that out there, but and George Zimmerman, for instance, in my opinion, George Zimmerman got away with some shit that he shouldn't have got away with, even if it was self-defense. But I will say that, I think the vast majority of issues are more government related. But to some degree, it's kind of always the way it's been. The North was the Republican Party. Yeah, and that's changed, which is another switch. You're right. And the South was Democrats. All the races came out under Trump. Well, somebody said it came out under Biden, or under Obama rather. But the FBI does agree with you, 420 Warrior. Democrats were Confederates, yeah, but they're not now. Let me see here. All those claims have been debunked for a while. In regards to 2,000 Mules, which I'm dying to watch, I will say this. I read some of the reviews, and I didn't want to read the reviews. I wanted to watch it with a completely open mind before I read any of the reviews, because I know there's going to be a ridiculous amount of reviews that are going to trash what's in the movie. But I wanted to see what was in the movie before I read the reviews. I have not been able to find a way to see the movie, so I ended up by mistake reading some of the reviews. I will say this. When Trump lost the election in November of 2020, he was still president until January 2021. So he had 2.5 months to present some evidence. After Trump leaving office, you also had several governors doing recounts and audits and things like that didn't produce enough evidence either. But even after them, then you had Mike Lindell, in his cyber symposium, which I did watch for 3 straight days, he didn't produce enough proof. So the idea that a 2-hour feature-length movie is going to do it does sound a bit far-fetched. Is it possible? Maybe. But you're talking about one guy, the president himself, having 2.5 months to present evidence, and Mike Lindell having 3 solid days to present evidence. And we're going to believe that a movie is going to do it in 2 hours? That is something to ponder. But I will watch the movie when it comes out. Should race theory be taught in schools? Says Ian, that has been asked to me before, and I will say this in regards to the teachings of critical race theory. Before I can legitimately answer that question, and I have no problem answering it, before I can legitimately answer that question, I would need to know what the fuck critical race theory even is. Some folks are suggesting that it is law level courses, and if it is, I don't think any elementary child should be held accountable for courses that are at the legal level. So that would be my opinion on that side. If you listen to the left, it is simply teaching history accurately. And I would be totally for it if that's it. So it depends on what the definition is. I don't believe there's any excuse not to teach history accurately. Not to deliberately omit shit or make stuff up because you believe certain members in the classroom might be offended or might be. Look, this is a no snowflake zone. Keep that shit up. If you do believe that folks should be able to speak their mind, you don't want snowflakes around, then don't put them in the fucking classroom either. So if it's teaching history accurately, then yeah, I strongly am in favor of it. So it'd have to be defined before I can give you a really good answer to that. It's teaching the full truth, no hiding, no snowflake shit. And that came from Ashley the Lioness. And even though I don't know what critical race theory actually is, let's make no mistake about it. There's no denying that there have been bad actors in this country. And I'm just going to use that term, bad actors, in regards to teaching history. There's no denying that people have tried to hide shit. I mean, who knows what the Red Summer is? How many of you guys even know where the term Indian giver or picnic came from? A lot of Americans don't even know that shit. Just like I said in regards to the day slavery ended. So there's no denying that they have tried to play games with teaching history correctly. So I would have to know before I could answer that question. I honestly don't believe it's teaching history accurately, says Robert Let's Go Brandon. Okay, if you don't believe it's teaching history accurately, if you believe it's law level courses, then yeah, I would not be a fan of teaching whatever, you know the word, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not a fan of holding an elementary school child accountable for shit that a lawyer to be is being taught. At that point, it is too much. But we have to first define what it is. Let's see here. I'm 1,000,000% for it. Us and our parents didn't learn. I do agree with that. My kids, for instance, are learning history a lot more accurate than we did. A lot more accurately than we did. So yeah, I'm 100% in belief that there are bad actors throughout our educational system that try to downplay, or some folks use the term whitewash or whatever term you want to use. But yeah, we were not. I mean, even the whole thing about the Pilgrims and the Indians sitting down and having a nice peaceful dinner. The interaction between the Native Americans and the colonizers or the settlers was violent as fuck. There are huge violent battles, from Custer's Last Stand all over the damn. You don't hear a lot about that in elementary school. That shit was a violent takeover. It was not peaceful by any means. And in school, you're taught that they came over and the Indians kind of just showed them a way to get used to living on a new land, and they just welcomed them in as guests. And that is not true by any means. And then, of course, there's Christopher Columbus coming to the country, and there's nobody even here when he gets here. They don't teach they indoctrinate students. Ouch, Rudolph Jackson. Let me say this in regards to that. I've heard, just like with the LGBT stuff, you teach this shit, you're going to confuse students, and they're too young to know about it and all that. And yeah, there may be some valid points to that. It wasn't taught to me, so I can't say whether it was confusing or not. But I will say this. Everybody in this crowd, if you're over 25 or if you're 25 years of age or older, you remember this. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. You put your hand on your heart and you say this. How many first graders know what it means to pledge allegiance to a nation? How many of them even know what it means to pledge an allegiance to anything? So the idea that teaching LGBT issues would indoctrinate or confuse a kid, but you're okay with making them pledge. How can a first grader pledge allegiance to a country? He doesn't know what it means to be an ally or be in an allegiance. You had no problem teaching them that. So it is what it is. I mean, it can be confusing as long as it's something we agree with. Yeah, Ghost Tits said, is that like Ghost Tits? Said I had to do it. Yeah, we all had to do it. A lot of us grew up. Then we would sing My Country, 'Tis of Thee, Sweet Land. And you don't know what the fuck any of that means. You just were taught the words and you're humming them out. If anybody stopped you in the middle of that song, now I could stop you in the middle of a song about bouncing booties and all of them rap songs and explain it, and you would be able to explain in detail what they mean or what kind of drug. But if you stop them in the middle of I pledge allegiance and start questioning, well, what does that mean? And what does it mean to, they would have no clue at all. So yeah, it was indoctrinating. It was certainly indoctrinating them. Let's see. Imagine being an exchange student. See, exactly. The goal is that if I teach you the value of this nation, the value of being a patriot, by the time you get to be 17, you will have a love for your country and potentially enlist and be willing to serve. That was the goal. And make no mistake about it, that is like literally defining indoctrinating. I mean, that's literally doing exactly that. Rodney Burns, 54, says, now you sound like a conservative. By what? In what mean? In what way? Listen, sometimes I do, by the way. Sometimes I make it clear there are plenty of things on the conservative side of the aisle that I think are more favorable. But there's plenty of things on the left also. So if I sound like a conservative, it can happen. I'm not here to bash the right and promote the left or vice versa. I'm here to point out shit on both sides and hopefully have conversations with people who represent both sides. It's all for a reason, to program us to stay under this white man's system, Christian system. Ashley, ouch. Race theory teaches why Native Americans were scalped and beheaded. And we don't hear about that. In fact, my daughter asked me about that. She was in like 6th grade. She had no clue that folks were scalped or beheaded. That's some crazy shit that happens in the Middle East. They don't talk, that happened here and it happened a lot. Heads on sticks and all of that stuff. That happened here and it happened a lot. In fact, I recently read Bill O'Reilly. I'm a big Bill O'Reilly fan, and I know he's a conservative. He has a book. This is Killing Crazy Horse. And this book, despite coming from a conservative, it talks about some of that stuff. And it is, you start to realize it was an incredibly violent colonization of the United States. All of that, beheading, they were scalping kids. They were going in villages and shit like that, killing every Native American in sight. Babies, everything. Just putting them on bayonets. It's horrible. It is a horrible history. I don't know if you could teach without scaring the shit out of some kids. My friend came from Peru and thought we were a... I had a friend come from Australia and said the same, like, you guys are incredibly patriotic. We went to a baseball game. And what was it? I think it was, went to a baseball game and some Navy SEALs jumped out of an aircraft and actually descended by parachute on down to the field and landed on the pitcher's mound or something like that. It looked awesome. We were going nuts. But she was like, are you just to hold the flag? You guys really do this? He comes flying down with a big, huge American flag and shit. It was one of those America fuck yeah type moments. But yeah, to an outsider, it's like, these guys are fucking crazy. Let's see. Let me scroll. Counts as hours of training. Yeah. You ignored all the teachers and professors and students because parents listened to Tucker Carlson. I'm not a fan of Tucker at all. In fact, Fox News has even admitted that you can't take him as face value. Yeah, Tucker is a bit far right, handsome liberal for president. Dark skin, dark two kid. Oh, no, I can't deal with the skeletons. I say it all the time on the show. You run for office, every skeleton in your damn closet comes out. And if you have no skeletons in your closet, they will hire an archaeologist to come to your house and put a skeleton in your closet. I don't want to deal with that. Uncle Tom, what up? Brandon's Trump president. Okay, he's calling me an Uncle Tom, but his name is Brandon's Trump president. So I actually don't believe he's been authentic. There's too much conflict in the name and the statement. The handsome, darky. I can't do that president shit. Trust the science. They want to cut your heart out, so it will. Your comment got chopped off. We thought scalping meant ripping the hair out of the scalp. No, it means taking off some of the fucking scalp to go along with it. They will take off your scalp, but they also take a nice chunk of your skin off with it so that the top of your skull is clearly visible. So, yeah, getting scalped in a lot of cases is not survivable. You can bleed to death from that. You know, a head wound is going to be very, you're going to bleed heavily from a head wound. I love my country because it's where I was born. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with loving your country, but be willing to admit flaws in your country. And this is where I get into a lot of back and forth with my patriots, with my red hats, my MAGA folks, is that simply criticizing America does not make you unpatriotic. If Trump can get up there and say under Biden, the country was going to hell in a handbasket, and you don't consider him as being unpatriotic, then why can't a liberal criticize the Trump administration without you saying the same thing? The First Amendment protects your right to free speech. You should be able to criticize what you see as flaws in your nation without people saying shit like, well, if you don't like this country, I'll help you pack. What the fuck? What part of free speech is telling somebody to leave their homeland because you don't like what they said? All right, let me see here. Scalping was started by the white man. I don't know if I heard that. 420 warrior. I think I heard the opposite of it. I don't know. Was it? Doesn't matter. The white man definitely participated in it. Let me see. You are correct, but Trump's policies were good. Biden is a disaster. There's a difference. Well, so let's work out. I'm not arguing that I think that economically, in particular, the country was ran better under Trump. I don't mind saying that. Don't mind saying it at all. I think that Trump's biggest problem was his mouth and the tweets, not his policies. I think if Trump was left up to being judged only by his policies, he would still be in office. He'd be enjoying a second term, which is why my red hats, my MAGA folks, my preferred audience, spent his entire term trying to convince people not to pay attention to what he was saying, what he was tweeting. Even though you're yelling "fuck your feelings" on one side, you're telling folks on the other side, pay attention to what he's doing, because you knew that shit was hurting him. You knew that shit was absolutely fucking his presidency up. And with him just yesterday, or day before yesterday, claiming that he's done more for Christianity, he's done more for every religion there is than anybody else, he's still saying shit that's going to fuck him up. You're going to tell me that President Trump has done more for Jehovah's Witnesses, for Muslims, for Buddhists, than anybody else on earth? He actually said that. So I'm just telling you, I'll take mean tweets over gas prices, trash can waves. A lot of people will, but a lot of people won't. You, as a voter, do not mind what Trump is saying. You're paying more attention to his policies. One of the reasons why I think a lot of Trump supporters state that they'll take mean tweets over cheap gas prices because the tweets are not aimed at you. That's the first thing. Imagine having a liberal in there that are giving you the same economy that Trump was giving you, but he's constantly attacking Christians. Maybe he's attacking white people. Maybe he's attacking Christian or gun rights, attacking gun. I bet those tweets would mean a little bit more to you then. It's because the tweets aren't aimed at you. They're not aimed at people you like. That's why you don't have a problem with them. Trump's behavior is like an abusive spouse who pays the bills, banning religions. I don't know if I would say Trump's behavior is like an abusive spouse who pays the bills, but I would say that definitely makes sense in regards to MAGA, because that's what you guys are saying, is that I would take the tweets over, give me the tweets back in cheap gas prices. In other words, he should be to say what the hell he wants as long as he's paying the bills. Yeah, so I do think your comment resonates to anybody who makes that type of a statement. Trump was to take the guns. 420 warrior. Trump was to take the guns. There must be a misspelling or something. Are you saying Trump wants to take the guns? Cheap gas prices were the result of demand bottoming out from COVID shutdowns. Wayne Woodle. There's more to it than that. Getting us off of our own energy independence, trying to go too quickly to alternative energies. No, Biden is responsible. Biden has some responsibility in high gas prices. There's no way you're going to tell me he has nothing to do with the way gas prices shot up. It just happened to happen. He had no control over it. No. Long as it doesn't affect me. That's unfortunately the bane of this country. AOC has said way worse things and is still in office. Trash can waste. Yeah, you guys don't forgive it though. You wouldn't vote for AOC based on the shit she's saying. So why should we vote for Trump? You hold AOC accountable for the shit she says. So why should we not hold Trump accountable? That's the only point I'm trying to make. Cowboy Longhorns. The government is like being in a domestic relationship. Is that a good domestic relationship? 420 Warrior, you're suggesting that Trump was going to try to take away guns. I do know after the Mandalay Bay shooting, where that guy killed 50 people, he shot across the street from Mandalay Bay Hotel in Vegas. He killed like 50-some people. And I think he shot like 500 folks or something. He had as many AR-15s as you could squeeze in the fucking hotel room. And Trump did suggest either that you didn't need high capacity magazines, or you didn't need AR-15s, and he ultimately did ban bump stocks. And it is crazy that when you hear the right, there is not a huge complaint about that. And he also was going to go further because he talked about fighting with what did he say? Sometimes you got to fight with the NRA. He was on the path to doing that. And somebody got in his ear and got him to change his mind. But yeah, the right wing never held him accountable for what he was trying to do with gun rights. He was going after him. Trump was for red flag laws. Really? What is your definition of a red flag law? I need to know that. I voted for him first term, then against him second term. So you voted for Trump against Clinton, which a lot of liberals did, by the way, because they were pissed off at what happened to Bernie Sanders. But then you voted for Biden in the second term. Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of my family was hardcore pro Bernie and hated Hillary Clinton. I bet a lot of them have buyer's remorse now, though. Some of them Bernie Sanders supporters, because those Bernie Sanders supporters are the young crowd, the ones who are going to be really pro-choice. I bet they got a lot of buyer's remorse now. They probably wish they had just stuck it out and followed through with Hillary Clinton. Indians start scalping took as a trophy after, yeah. Okay. I thought it was started by the Native Americans too. The young crowd, the dummies. That's a bit short-sighted. You really think all young folks are dummies? Aren't they the ones who provide all of these social media platforms and shit that we've come to know and love? I don't know if that's a bit harsh. No snowflakes allowed. You know it, baby. Trump for cancer 2024. That was where they could take your guns for an unspecified time with only suspicion. Yeah. That's why we not a cult, but the left blindly agrees to everything that. This comes from Trash Can Waves. That's why we are not a cult, but the left agree blindly to everything the left is for. You know, on election night, while the votes were still being tallied, Trump got on television and suggested that he had already won by a landslide. Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey, a Republican for life, stated on ABC, because he was there while the polls were being counted with George Stephanopoulos, said at that time, there's no way in the world Trump should be on TV saying this. The votes have not even been fully tallied yet. And immediately, numerous Trump supporters, MAGA, started saying he won by a landslide. So when you say the left will blindly follow stuff, even if you believe Trump won the election, folks were following it long before any sort of proof came out. He said he won the election on election night, and the right started immediately following that. To this day, he still have not presented significant proof, but he certainly had not presented any proof on election night. And you had members on the right that were blindly following him. I don't disagree that members on the left blindly follow their politicians sometimes too, but don't ever pretend like it doesn't happen on the right. That election was a perfect example of it. So it must be that the left is in the wrong. I don't get that. Who counts for weeks until their candidate wins? Who counts for weeks until their candidate wins? Trash can, if the votes are still coming in from the mail, and I know how much you guys did not like the fact that you could mail in votes, but if there's still legitimate votes coming in, you got to keep counting them. I mean, you can't just stop and there's legitimate. Everybody has a right if they get their votes in within whatever laws state that they can vote. If they meet those laws and they get a vote in, that vote's supposed to be counted. You don't stop counting. Trump said white supremacists are good people. I never heard that. It was proven that Democrats didn't give Bernie a fair chance, which is sad. They turned their backs. Let me say this in regards to Bernie Sanders. And this also, sorry about that, this also applies to Donald Trump as well. Bernie Sanders was not a Democrat. Donald Trump is not a Republican. You see what Donald Trump has done since he got elected. He's essentially turned that party against a lot of the well-known established Democrats in making it the Trump party. My guess is if Bernie Sanders had gotten elected, he would have done the exact same thing to the Democratic Party. So when you say it's proven that the Democrats didn't give Bernie a fair chance, to some degree, it's because he's not a Democrat. I guarantee you a lot of the elite members within the Republican Party are probably upset that they gave Trump a chance because a lot of them no longer have a job. A lot of their political careers have been ruined because he came into the party, took over the party, and essentially kicked them out. Bernie Sanders would have done the exact same thing. You look at somebody like President Biden. Despite what you see in President Biden right now, he was elected supposedly because he was a moderate. You think Bernie Sanders would be down with a moderate with his policies? He would have done the exact same thing Trump is doing. He would have come into the party. He would have used people like AOC, Elizabeth Warren, and the squad, and all of the moderates would have been getting treated just like Trump is treating folks he now calls rhinos. These people should not be running under the traditional ticket of Democrat or Republican. That's my take. I don't think Trump is a Republican. I don't think Biden, or I don't think Bernie Sanders is a Democrat. Yeah, you're right. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. Yeah, whatever. But I don't. Yeah, he should not have. Neither one of these folks should have been running under their party label. But they need the money, so they ran under that. Biden is more of a centrist than a liberal, but folks will argue all day he isn't. I do think that Biden was more of a centrist, but he has let enough folks that lean much further left than he does get in his ear, and they've changed his mind. Honestly, both parties need a good shake-up and start representing we the people. It's not a lot of incentive to do so. That says Captain Dave, Texas Strong. It's not a lot of incentive to do it. They make a lot more money doing what they're doing now. You just need somebody that's morally clean, I guess I use the word. Just somebody who's clean morally and don't want the money, don't care about the power. You don't find a lot of human beings like that. So, and that's including Trump, who didn't take any salary, but he still was trying to get paid. Under Trump was divided states of America. Yeah, he certainly wasn't trying to unite the country. That's why I'm America first. Nothing wrong with that. You see the sign here over my left shoulder. I'm down with America first. Trump is 1/3 America. Okay, I don't know where to go with that. All right, folks, let me see. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this shit up. You guys have been real good tonight. I had plenty of callers come through here, but Roe v. Wade being reversed. It looks like most of you guys are in the camp to actually do that. I don't think that there's anything the right or the left, rather. I don't think there's anything the liberals or the left can do to stop it, not in the near future. I do believe it will be a galvanizing issue, whereas the liberals will now fight and strive for a 60-seat majority in the Senate to one day get in position to secure abortion rights for women. And that will be their goal for every election until they do it. Eventually it will happen. Like I said, I don't think it's going to happen anytime in the near future, but eventually it will happen. And that's what they will be trying to do. Wayne Woodle, appreciate it. You said, glad you came through my For You page. Bro, stay blessed. I appreciate that. Follow the channel, folks. As usual, I always ask that. Monday through Friday. I'm just happen to be in here on a Sunday doing nothing, but Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. is when I come in here and we chop it up real good. And like I said, we don't run from anybody. We take all your calls. All of these broadcasts, including this one, within a day, they're on YouTube. So all of my previous broadcasts, they're starting to be on YouTube under the Handsome Liberal. So if you go to YouTube, type in the Handsome Liberal, you will see previous broadcasts. You can hear the callers and all of that. It's in the same format it is here. I will catch you guys later. Enjoy your Sunday and happy Mother's Day to you all.